What's up, guys? Don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment, hype up the video, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe and join the family. Guys, if you want to support the channel and get something cool, check the first link in the description. Use my code HugoHenriqueMore to get 10% off on anime lamps. On the eve of the year 2076, a game suddenly became reality. Countless dangerous dungeons appeared, along with hordes of monsters that invaded the human world. Powerful creatures mercilessly massacring people and driving humanity to the brink of extinction. However, along with the destruction came the so-called divine talents, mysterious blessings granted to humans, allowing some to awaken as powerful hunters. Thanks to them, the world was saved from the clutches of the monsters, and from then on, a new order was established. The strong came to be revered, and the law of survival of the fittest became absolute. To maintain their positions, hunters needed to constantly grow stronger, seeking power and wealth. Formidable hunters invaded dungeons, defeated bosses, conquered treasures, and climbed the rankings, marking the beginning of the era of global hunters. Amid the bustling hunter's square, a young man walked disheartened. He sighed, regretting that he could have awakened a rare class but ended up with the most common of all, warrior. On his personal panel it read, Name, Su Yang, Profession, Warrior, Strength, 12, Speed, 10, Spirit, 10. He thought that in the early stages, warriors suffered greatly in close combat and died easily. Even with effort, their power could never compare to other classes, and in that world, being a warrior was practically synonymous with mediocrity. Suddenly, a group approached, and one of them began to mock him, saying he had heard that Yang awakened as the most useless warrior of all, something that suited him perfectly. Yang remained silent, recognizing the face of the provocateur. The purple-haired young man came closer, wrapping an arm around him mockingly and saying that a newly awakened warrior was just an ordinary human with a bit more strength. Since Yang was an orphan with no money or guidance, he wouldn't even be able to join a guild. It would be better for him to accept working as a laborer. Suddenly, the protagonist cracked his knuckles, startling everyone with the sharp sound. He asked where that fly had come from and with a smirk stared at the bully, recognizing him as Wang Fei, his classmate. He remarked that he'd heard Wang had awakened a rare class, Ice Mage, and congratulated him, but also reminded him that mages were extremely weak physically, especially right after awakening. In a provocative tone, he suggested testing that rumor to see if it was true. Enraged, Wang called his friends, shouting that the school's most useless warrior still had the nerve to act arrogant. Just as they were about to fight, someone shouted for them to look. Everyone turned in surprise. The attack team from the Spirit Hunt Guild was arriving. People whispered excitedly, saying how lucky they were to see them in person. Yang watched closely, recognizing one of the most powerful A-rank guilds in East Spirit City. A fourth-ranking hunter, a storm archer of level 95, advanced, asking everyone to clear the way as he was in a hurry. Yang was amazed. It was Zhao Ming, the vice president of the Spirit Hunt Guild, someone he'd only ever seen in commercials. Wang eagerly stepped forward, bumping into Yang before approaching Ming. He asked if they were recruiting, saying he admired the guild for a long time and wondered if he could join them. Before he could continue, a woman interrupted, saying that the person responsible for recruitment was downstairs and that they were just the attack team. However, Zhao Ming showed interest and asked what class he belonged to. Wang proudly replied that he was an Ice Mage, a rare class specializing in crowd control. The vice president smiled, praised his choice, and ordered someone to give him a guild card. Flattered, Wang thanked him, and the woman told him to go downstairs to make contact. Watching everything, Young thought about how easily someone with a rare class could get attention, and wondered if he would ever have the same luck. Yet, while he pondered, other awakened individuals approached, asking if they could join too, saying they were archers and thieves. The guildwoman, now annoyed, snapped that archers should look for the branch responsible and that they didn't have time to deal with thieves. She didn't want to waste another second on useless questions. Curious, Young asked what she thought of warriors. She looked at him briefly, turned her face away, and simply ignored him. The protagonist felt the contempt and questioned whether this truly was the reality of his world, a place where only the strong were respected and where nothing but power mattered. The awakened classes determined each person's potential, and by awakening as a mere warrior, his fate seemed already sealed. Even the weakest guilds hesitated to accept warriors. So what could be expected from the elites like the mighty Spirit Hunt Guild? The two other young men who had also been rejected commented that they had always dreamed of joining a guild and becoming renowned hunters, but one of them, resigned, said it was better to forget about it. After all, they were just storm archers. The other, wearing a blue shirt, tried to stay optimistic and mentioned hearing rumors that the Spirit Hunt Guild would be raiding the Black Dragon's lair that very day. They were probably there to use the teleportation portal leading directly to the dungeon's entrance. Upon hearing that, Yang froze in shock. The Black Dragon's lair was the largest S-rank dungeon in City C, filled with lesser monsters but also elites and absurdly powerful creatures. Though death didn't mean immediate extinction in that world, it caused hunters to lose levels and experience, possibly dropping all the way to level 0, something devastating amid the fierce competition between guilds. Worse yet, losing rare equipment could be an even greater blow. The ruler of that place was the legendary level 99 Black Dragon, Athos, the Wings of Black Flames, a being so feared that even S-rank guilds had been annihilated before him. Still, the Spirit Hunt Guild was famous for having several hunters in their 4th evolution or higher and had never failed a single expedition, so perhaps they truly stood a chance. Yang felt small and out of place imagining those figures facing a legendary dragon while he was barely acknowledged as a warrior. It only reinforced the sense that this world belonged solely to the strong, and he wondered if he was destined to remain a failure forever, trampled underfoot by the powerful. Suddenly, something strange happened, and a glowing screen appeared before his eyes. A mechanical voice announced, "Perfect host detected. Part-time boss system will soon be bound." A dense energy began to gather in his chest, and Yang, confused, wondered what was happening, thinking this might be some kind of cheat. The voice continued, "Part-time boss system loading. The system requires the host to act as a dungeon boss, resisting players who challenge the instance. Upon eliminating a player, the host will share their experience and equipment drops. Would you like to activate the function?" Shocked, Young tried to understand the system wanted him to fight against players as a dungeon boss. Normally, a boss faced teams of 4, 8, or even 24 people, and in some cases, raids of 100 players. If he could defeat them, he would gain enormous amounts of experience and valuable items, rising from level 1 to transcendent levels in a short time. That meant even the weakest warrior could become incredibly powerful. But one thought worried him. What would happen if he lost? While he was still trying to process everything, the system changed again, displaying a new message. Host did not respond. Unlinking will begin shortly. Countdown initiated. Yang panicked, unable to believe what was happening, wondering if it could truly be real. He prepared to decide, realizing that even taking advantage of an opportunity carried risks. The counter began ticking down rapidly, his heart pounding. Rather than live as a failure, he would risk everything. He didn't want to spend his life being crushed under others' feet. When the counter reached 1 second, he made his decision, taking a deep breath and declaring mentally that this was the only path to become stronger. And if it meant working part-time as a dungeon boss, so be it. The moment he confirmed, the system's energy surged violently, and the mechanical voice announced, "Host has chosen part-time mode, system activated, teleportation in progress." Light enveloped him, and within seconds the ground vanished beneath his feet as he was completely swallowed by the portal. Yang muttered for the system to at least give him a powerful boss if this was for real. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself somewhere entirely different. The air was heavy, the ground cracked and covered in scales and molten rock. Looking around trying to understand where he was, he whispered that the part-time job had really worked. In front of him, dozens of creatures stared, dragons ranging from level 80 to 95, all kneeling before him. He frowned, thinking they seemed far too small for what he knew about dragons. Then, a deep voice echoed, calling him Noble King and asking if he had awakened from his long slumber. Yang's eyes widened in confusion, his body trembling. King, Dragon King, that could only mean one thing. The system confirmed it with a glowing message congratulating the host for synchronization and stating that the current boss was the level 99 Black Dragon, Athos, the Wings of Black Flames. He froze, wondering if he had really become the Wings of Black Flames himself. Then a data panel appeared before him. Boss status, Black Dragon Athos, Young Stage, level 99, Race Dragon, HP 5 million, Attribute Shadow Strength 3210, Speed 1102, Spirit 1321, Talents, Draconic Lineage, immune to 80% of physical damage and 80% of magical damage, Black Flames of Destruction, innate mastery of fire at an incredibly powerful level, capable of unleashing destructive black flames that deal massive magic damage. Skills, Dragon Explosion, unleashes an extremely powerful detonation, dealing physical damage equal to 300% of strength. Dragon's Roar emits a deafening roar, stunning for 5 seconds all creatures within a 300-meter radius whose spirit is lower than the user's. Dragon's Eye allows viewing of any space within the instance, ignoring line-of-sight restrictions. Yang was stunned. If these were truly the stats of the Wings of Black Flames, then he was an absolute monster. A level 99 player in their 4th evolution could barely reach one of those attributes, yet Athos exceeded all of them, boasting over 3,000 points in strength. The most absurd thing was the talents. Dual 80% immunity to both physical and magical damage, combined with an aura that reduced enemy attributes by 20%. That made him nearly invincible, not to mention the exclusive skills that made him an unstoppable force. An infinite power coursed through his body, every cell vibrating. The sensation was intoxicating. Driven by impulse, he let out a colossal roar, but immediately regretted it. The sound thundered across the lair, shaking the ground as all the dragons before him knelt instantly, suffocated by the overwhelming pressure. One trembling servant begged the king to calm his wrath. Yang looked around and realized that with a single roar, he had brought all his subordinates to their knees. He figured he must have accidentally activated Dragon's Roar, sighed in amazement at his own power, and ordered everyone to rise. Yang thinks that this must be what a real boss's tone sounds like. His humanoid servant starts trembling, saying there's no doubt that His Majesty is truly the king, and that even in his youth he already possesses such immense power that once he reaches maturity, crushing the human world will only be a matter of time. The protagonist is startled when he hears the word youth, and recalls that the information did mention this, but he wonders if dungeon bosses aren't supposed to remain fixed at their levels. However, the wings of black flames might be an exception, and could have truly leveled up. Suddenly, he hears a faint, strained breath beside him and sees an elf waking up. She asks what that cursed dragon is plotting and says that if he has any sense at all, he should release her immediately. Otherwise, the elven race will make sure he pays for it. Yang wonders if the elven race could be composed of NPCs from the instance. He starts toying with the cage and the elf screams, asking what he's doing. The protagonist thinks that, since the game became reality, several fantasy races have appeared, but this is the first time he's actually seen elves. Suddenly, both of them feel a powerful aura. Yang wonders if it's a spatial fluctuation and what could be happening. The elf sighs, smiles, and says that a player has finally come to rescue her, calling the dragon her doom. Yang steps closer and keeps staring at her. Startled, the elf asks why he's looking at her like that and thinks it's strange, since that dragon usually ignores insults, yet today he's reacting differently. Yang concludes that it must be the Spirit Hunt Guild, though he didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. He knows their strategies never fail, which makes him wonder if he's truly going to be defeated. Even as a powerful dragon, he knows they must have prepared carefully before showing up to challenge him. To be sure, he activates the dragon's eye, thinking he should use a skill to investigate first. Then he begins hearing voices telling everyone to stay sharp because their strategy cannot fail today. Finally, he locates them all. Li Dan, level 98, 4th evolution, Master of the Holy Light Shield. Qian Yuan, level 96, 4th evolution, Healing Paladin. Zhao Ming, level 95, 4th evolution, Storm Archer. Lei Shan, level 99, 4th evolution, Master of the Storm of Destruction. Yang realizes this is the Spirit Hunt Guild's main assault team. The group leader says that today they must invade the Black Dragon's lair and defeat him, and that reaching the 5th evolution will only be a matter of time. The team cheers, and Yang thinks they're truly confident. One of the members shouts a warning, telling the leader they've detected minor monsters ahead. 8 mid-level flying magic wolves with poison attributes. They're young wyverns, dragon race, levels 80, 89, and 81. The protagonist keeps watching, deciding to test the power of these small creatures first. Lei Shan steps forward, saying they can't waste time with low-level trash, ordering the tanks to hold the line while the others use fire attribute attacks and maximize their damage as quickly as possible. In seconds, they eliminate the first wave of monsters. The leader orders them to maintain formation and keep moving. Meanwhile, Yang observes and concludes that this truly is the Spirit Hunt Guild. In both firepower and discipline, they're top tier, and those monsters didn't even get to show their full strength. He looks at his subordinates and realizes what he must do. Since they're a professional team, it's time to raise the difficulty a little. Yang keeps watching as the guild members ask the leader how much progress they've made in the dungeon. He replies about 10% with supplies stable and no casualties, which he considers excellent. Suddenly, Yuan panics and shouts, asking what that thing falling from the sky is, shocked by the creature's attributes. Shan also looks confused, asking if it's an elite monster. The elite dragon warrior appears before them, announcing that intruders have been detected. Its data appears: HP 100,000, Earth attribute dragon race, Strength 1,211, Speed 823, Spirit 702, Talents, Dragon's Glory, which increases the power of all abilities by 10%, and Dragon's Prestige, which grants immunity to mental effects. The team leader yells for everyone to defend immediately, but the dragon warrior teleports right into the middle of the group. It charges forward with a roar, shouting for them to accept their end, but Dan steps up and raises his shield, declaring that he'll handle it. He activates the Divine Light Shield Barrier, becoming immune to any damage for 10 seconds, with a cooldown of 300 seconds. Ming starts coordinating the team, telling everyone to stay calm and ordering the ranged attackers to fall back while the melee fighters move forward. He commands them to align their buffs and combos and focus their fire. Then he fires a storm arrow, dealing massive wind attribute damage and hitting the dragon squarely. Yang watches closely and concludes that the Dragon Warrior is indeed powerful, but alone poses no real threat to the Spirit Hunt Guild. The elf, still trapped, says that for a moment she thought the dragon was plotting something, but now sees that he just sent underlings to die, calling him pathetic. The protagonist smirks and summons more minions, thinking that if one isn't enough, he just needs to increase the number. Several monsters begin falling in front of the guild, leaving everyone shocked and asking what's going on. Yang thinks that now he'll see how they handle 6 elites at once. The guild panics, saying they're all elite monsters and that 6 is too many. Ming, nervous, tells the leader they've never faced anything like this and asks what to do. Sean comments that the day is definitely strange, but quickly shouts that elite monsters aren't something to fear because the Spirit Hunt Guild doesn't mess around. He declares himself an expert in elites and says they can bring them all on. The battle resumes. The leader issues commands, yelling for everyone to reform their positions and prioritize healing the wounded. The tanks must maintain aggro and avoid facing the group directly. He orders them to protect the healers and for the healers to keep the tanks alive. Yang watches and admits that the group is truly resilient. At first, he thought elite monsters and surprise attacks would make them retreat, but they chose to fight to the end. The elf, impressed, remarks that those players are incredible and mocks the dragon, saying his strategies won't work and he should just accept his fate. The protagonist, however, keeps watching the guild, thinking that even with all that strength, it still isn't enough to defeat him like a true boss. After eliminating the 6 elite monsters, the guild continues moving forward, and Yang wonders if they still have another trick up their sleeve. Suddenly, he notices the group isn't heading toward him but in another direction, as if something important were hidden there. He looks in the same direction they're moving and sees the tomb of the Dragon Slayer, where a skeleton lies inside. Curious, he asks what that is, and the system displays an item called the Dragon Slayer's Heart, along with a mission stating that the item allows its bearer to ignore a dragon's innate talents. Yang begins to grow irritated, his dark aura leaking from his body, frightening his minions, who ask what's happening. The protagonist then understands. It's just like in online game strategies, where an almost invincible boss can be weakened through special mechanics or rare items. If the players manage to use that heart, they'll be able to ignore his talents, meaning there really is a chance they could defeat him. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind starts shaking the elf's cage, and she, surprised, comments that the players haven't even triggered the event yet, so there's no reason for the dragon to leave his lair early. The panicked servants shout that Lord Athos himself will take action, chanting a war cry and declaring that the king will triumph. Yang charges forward determined, thinking that those players already knew about the item and that under no circumstances can he allow the Spirit Hunt Guild to get their hands on it. Meanwhile, the assault group advances cautiously. The leader comments that he didn't expect so many surprises so early in the dungeon, but that everything is still under control for now. Ming warns the guild master that the consumption of supplies and equipment durability are far higher than expected, and wonders if they might have been deceived by the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean firmly denies it, saying that the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion is a renowned and trustworthy strategy group, and that he personally exchanged this tactic using the Ring of the Universe with them, so it can't be fake. Yuen announces that they're nearing the Black Dragon's lair and asks if there's any chance a new event could trigger the boss. Sean assures them that it's impossible. The Black Dragon has only basic intelligence and won't leave the lair unless attacked. The guild leader declares that the Black Dragon is merely a stepping stone on his path and that after causing so much destruction, he'll finally reclaim everything. Yuen agrees, saying the dragon can belong to the leader, but he's had his eye on the elf for a while. If they complete the secret event of the Elven Maiden, they'll not only earn a pass to the Elven Kingdom, but also gain the Maiden's total obedience. He asks the leader if he knows what he's talking about. Sean replies that once they obtain the Dragon Slayer's heart, victory will be guaranteed, and Yuen will be free to do whatever he wants. Suddenly, they notice a shadow approaching, and inform the leader that several scattered monsters are heading their way, winged creatures, seemingly small flying dragons. Sean frowns, saying that flying dragons are guardian monsters and shouldn't be outside the lair. Ming looks closer and shouts that something's wrong. That size isn't that of an ordinary flying dragon. Yuen is also stunned by the creature's massive form until the protagonist lands before them, towering and terrifying, making everyone scream in despair. It's the boss, the Wings of Black Flame. Sean freezes in disbelief, saying that it's impossible, wondering why the boss appeared so early. Ming becomes furious, shouting that the celestial mechanism pavilion really tricked them. Yuan panics, asking what they should do now and whether they'll really have to fight, since without the Dragon Slayer's heart, there's no way to win. He insists they should retreat immediately, but the guild leader stays silent. Yang watches them with disdain, thinking how terrified they look at the idea of fighting without the Dragon Slayer's heart. So this is the so-called Mighty Spirit Hunt Guild? Maybe that's better. All he needs to do is wipe them out to level up. Yang prepares to attack, and the group comments that he's about to unleash his skills, but suddenly a lightning bolt strikes his head, dealing 2,999 damage, which barely dents his health bar. Sean starts releasing his own power, declaring that no one is allowed to retreat and that everyone must return to their positions. He asks if there's really anything the guild can't face, reminding them that they're not weak and that a mere beast is no reason to fear. Determined, he faces the dragon head-on and orders an all-out assault, promising generous rewards in gold, gear, and women to those who fight with everything they've got. His words ignite the group's spirits. They shout with excitement, saying they'll slay the dragon, grab the loot, and take the elves afterward, moving into position and preparing to strike. The protagonist closes his eyes, thinking those words only made them more confident, and that means he'll just have to kill them one by one. Sean gathers his energy and shouts for everyone to unleash maximum damage, attacking with full force. He orders Dan to activate the strongest defense barrier and hold aggro, while the healers focus on regenerating mana to sustain protection. Yuan must keep the Holy Light active, and the support classes must cast all single-target buffs on him and on Ming to maximize damage. According to the plan, they're close to the Dragon Slayer's tomb, and if they stick to the strategy, victory is certain. But before they can continue, the protagonist's tail sweeps through them, exploding between the group and sending everyone flying. The healer shouts for the team to regroup as quickly as possible, but the force of the blast keeps them apart. The protagonist warns that he won't give them a chance to prepare, and amid the smoke, a bright light begins to emerge, revealing Yang launching his abilities. The system announces that the triple sacred barrier has been activated, creating a powerful defense that will protect the shield bearer and his allies for about 3 minutes. The leader shouts that he didn't notice the dragon's attack and orders all survivors to take cover inside the barrier. The saint, with a faint smile, explains that the black dragon can use its tail strike only once and that the remaining attacks are area-based, instructing the group to stay close together to reduce damage and endure the assault. The system then reports a divine blessing that increases the power of holy light abilities by 30% for him and his allies. While defending, the leader thinks he hadn't expected to dodge so many attacks and commands the survivors to counterattack. The archer then asks everyone to channel their buffs into her and the guild leader. Yang thinks that was just a simple strike, something exclusive to his current form, and decides to keep his defense active just in case. Furious, Sean orders the second wave. Everyone attacks at once, and the resulting explosion is so powerful it can be seen from miles away. The leader yells for everyone to prepare for the next phase, saying they need to take at least 5% of the boss's health. But as the dust settles, he's horrified to see that all their combined attacks only dealt 10,000 damage. Yang watches with satisfaction, realizing they're poorly equipped and incapable of breaking through his defense. Ming tries to warn the leader, saying the dragon's damage reduction talent is insane, and they'll never inflict real injuries. Even so, Sean insists they stay focused, saying that as long as the dragon's health doesn't drop below 75%, it won't use any devastating skills. So everyone keeps attacking with hope, while Yang finds the whole thing irritating, like being bitten by a swarm of mosquitoes. Despite their failed strategy, the group keeps fighting desperately, and he decides it's time to end this once and for all. The protagonist takes flight, unleashes a deafening roar that paralyzes everyone, then exhales a colossal wave of fire that engulfs the battlefield. He mutters that it's over. Not even an A-rank guild can face him. Sean tries to stand, confused that the dragon already used its skills, and shouts for everyone to get up, saying the boss is always paralyzed after an attack and they can still win. But when he looks back, he sees all his comrades already lying on the ground, completely annihilated. As he turns toward the dungeon boss, Sean realizes the dragon is still moving and screams in terror, demanding to know why that damned beast isn't paralyzed after using its ability. The protagonist exhales a blast of black flame, striking the leader head-on, who screams that it's not over yet. However, the system appears, announcing that all intruders have been completely eliminated and congratulating the player, informing that experience conversion is now in progress. Yang feels a strange energy flowing through his body and wonders if this is the experience being absorbed. The system begins recording. You have eliminated Thunderbreaker Sean, level 99, gaining 198,763 experience points. You have eliminated Storm Archer Ming, level 95, gaining 186,123 experience points. You have eliminated Healing Paladin Yuan level 94, gaining 171,633 experience points. You have eliminated Holy Light Defender Dan level 93, gaining 162,321 experience points. Yang watches in disbelief as the experience bar keeps rising nonstop, almost overflowing from the massive accumulation. After a few moments, the system reports that the total accumulated experience is 990,000 points, advancing from level 1 to level 20 and reaching the limit before the first class transformation. Due to excess, 40% of the experience has been lost, and 430,000 points have been stored in the reservoir. Please complete the task as soon as possible, the system adds. On his personal panel, his stats update. Name, Su Yang, class, warrior, untransformed. Level, 20, ascending experience, 430,000. Strength, 12. Speed, 10. Spirit, 10. Unallocated attribute points, 200. Yang is stunned to see he still has ascending experience, meaning he can continue leveling rapidly once he changes class. If all goes well, he could reach level 40 and achieve the second transformation that same day. An absurd growth rate. He then looks ahead, wondering if he obtained any equipment, since a high-level guild like Spirit Hunt should have dropped incredible items, maybe even a rare gold tier one. Upon checking his inventory, the protagonist is shocked. Diamond tier weapon, Storm's Call longbow, diamond tier accessory, Spirit of the Wind's Call necklace, diamond tier armor, Cloudflow boots, platinum tier weapon, Ritual Remnant, staff, and platinum tier weapon, Flame Sword. He can hardly believe he got 3 diamond tier items and several platinum ones. Recognizing the bow as the vice leader Ming's main weapon, he laughs, imagining the Spirit Hunt Guild seething with rage at that very moment. Even though he can't use the bow since he's a warrior, selling it at the auction house would earn billions, a massive profit. Checking the rest of the loot, he finds basic agility potions, intermediate strength potions, and skill scrolls like Baptism of Flames and Rock Barrier, feeling even more pleased. Smiling, he remarks that this is almost too good to be true, but the surprises continue. He finds a broken limitless gem, a special item that, when applied to equipment, completely removes level restrictions. Shocked, he shouts that it's insane. Using this gem, even a level 1 novice could equip a platinum tier weapon that normally requires level 61. The system displays the description, Flame Sword, platinum tier, a weapon of the flame giant. Its blade has claimed countless lives. The surrounding flames are as hot as lava, ready to devour any enemy before it. Restriction, level 79. Attributes, strength 320, spirit 150. Yang grips the sword tightly, saying that among all the platinum tier equipment, this one suits his warrior class best. With the limitless gem applied, even at level 20, he'll be able to wield it, and with that, nothing will be able to stop him. The system displays additional details. Flame enchantment consumes mana to envelop the sword in fire, adding 40% of the strength attribute as flame damage to attacks. Flame Giant's Remnant consumes all mana to summon a flame giant for 10 minutes, with a cooldown of 24 hours. Soon after, another message appears, warning that the dual mission's timer is about to end, with a 5-minute countdown before distance reset. He can also choose to return immediately. Without hesitation, he decides to leave, eager to return and change his class. When he confirms his choice, the teleportation begins, and suddenly he reappears at home, surprised to find himself back in his own room since he expected to appear in the class change plaza. However, he quickly realizes how realistic the system is. He truly reached level 20, and none of it was a dream. He opens the system menu, saying it's time to allocate his points, deciding to put 100 into strength and 50 into spirit. Normally, warriors don't invest in spirit, but since he's bound to the system, he can't follow the standard path. Some of the scrolls he obtained require a minimum spirit stat to use, which could become a huge advantage later. After distributing the points, he suddenly feels something strange and wonders if this caused an aura burst, since he assigned them all at once, drastically increasing his power. When the surge settles, he notices he nearly destroyed his entire room and thinks that maybe next time he should hold back a little. Looking at the clock, he sees it's already late and decides to leave the class change for tomorrow, choosing to rest for the night. The next day at the Spirit Hunt Guild headquarters, people ask the leader why they returned so soon and whether they completed the dungeon. The woman from before freezes when she sees that her master's level has dropped, which can only mean the team was wiped out. She asks how it happened and whether they followed the strategy purchased from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean, who had been level 99 but dropped to 90, replies irritably that he doesn't want to hear that cursed name again, saying they were deceived. He curses the so-called strategy, shouting that he traded his Ring of the Universe for that worthless garbage and made a fool of himself. The woman, still in shock, notices the vice leader lying on a stretcher, now level 86, and screams in disbelief, asking what happened. Sean explains that his main weapon, a diamond tier item, exploded, leaving him badly injured and unconscious. Yuen, in tears, says he lost his diamond tier boots and didn't even manage to get the palace. The leader grows angrier by the second, seeing everyone devastated, and says that even an S-rank guild like the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion dared to sell a fake strategy. Enraged, he vows to confront them immediately, swearing he won't rest until he gets an explanation. Meanwhile, at Nanshan Orphanage, a child calls for the old man to come see something amazing. The elder walks over to a delivery man and asks if he's sure the delivery is correct. The worker confirms, saying the address is Nanshan Orphanage and the recipient's name is Su Yang. Surprised, the old man wonders how little Yang could possibly afford something like this. A cheerful girl runs around excitedly, and the old man tells her to be careful, but Xiao Tao keeps smiling and running everywhere, too excited to stop. One of the delivery men stumbles, and some boxes start falling, leaving the girl frozen in fear, but the protagonist appears just in time, catching them all with one hand and saving her. He smiles and says, "It's been a long time." Shocked, she screams that her big brother is back, and soon all the children at the orphanage run toward him, thrilled to see him after so long. Yang comments that seeing everyone so happy puts his heart at ease. The old man walks over smiling and says, "It seems he's become very strong," asking if he's already chosen a profession. The protagonist laughs and replies that he has. He changed classes yesterday and luckily made quite a bit of money. He recalls selling several items from the Spirit Hunt Guild with money flowing in non-stop. His bank balance now sits at 60 million. Still worried, the old man asks if he joined a dungeon raid group and tells him to be careful, reminding him that monsters are dangerous. Yang thinks to himself that in truth, he's the most dangerous monster inside those dungeons. The old man insists, saying that beginners who change professions can lose levels or even die if they're not cautious, so it might be better to wait. But Yang cuts him off, saying there's no need to worry since those monsters are very obedient and can't hurt him. He then mentions that he's heading to the temple to change professions again and needs to go. The old man looks confused, not understanding how monsters could be obedient, or how Yang could change professions again when he just awakened. At the class change hall, rumors have already spread. People whisper that the Spirit Hunt Guild was completely annihilated yesterday during their battle with the Black Dragon boss, and that even the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion's branch is now in trouble. They say something went wrong at the dungeon's conclusion, and that the Spirit Hunters went to the pavilion demanding answers. Another awakened player comments that he never imagined such a reliable raid group like the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion would make such a mistake. Yang walks in silence, thinking about how quickly news of the Spirit Hunt Guild's downfall spread and how the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion is being blamed, since they only faced the Black Dragon because of the purchased strategy. The pavilion, known for having many 5th-class experts, will certainly come to investigate what happened, and they might become his next enemies. He smiles, imagining that group must possess many valuable items, but first he has to make sure he can defeat them easily. Suddenly, Wang appears, shouting at him, demanding to know why he's there and why he keeps coming to the temple to change professions. Yang replies that he should be the one asking that question, but Wang and his group start laughing, saying they already know why. Apparently, no guild wanted to accept him, so he comes here every day trying his luck. Wang activates his ice abilities, saying that yesterday he didn't have time to teach him a lesson, but now he'll see where Yang can run. Yang looks at him calmly, thinking he's just like a noisy fly, and clearly needs to be swatted to learn some manners. Wang keeps bragging, saying that yesterday he let Yang go only because of guild business, but now he's joined a guild, distributed his attributes, learned new skills, and guarantees that this time he'll definitely win. However, before he can even finish his sentence, he's interrupted by a devastating punch to the face. The blow is so powerful that it sends him flying. The protagonist calmly remarks that he didn't mean to hit him. He just tried to save him from a fly that landed on his face. Wang crashes to the ground with only 5% of his health remaining, and his group rushes over in panic, trying to wake him and asking what happened. Still composed, Yang says he killed the fly on Wang's face, but apparently there are still a few more sitting on the faces of everyone there. Terrified, his companions immediately back away, insisting there's no need for him to worry, that they can handle it themselves before fleeing in pure panic. Suddenly, a woman begins clapping. She's a temple guide responsible for profession transitions and approaches him with a smile, praising him and saying he's truly impressive, asking if she can help him with anything. Yang says he wishes to perform a class transition. The woman nods and asks him to follow her. As they walk, she notes that he looks like a newly promoted novice, yet the strength and speed he displayed clearly put him at the level of a professional around level 20. She wonders if he's a descendant of a powerful family, but finds it odd that she's never heard of such a young talent. After a while, they arrive at the location and the guide points to a grand statue of the god of transition, explaining that it will automatically detect his class and level, then assign him a transition mission which, once completed, will allow him to advance. Yang studies the statue's immense size, thinking it's truly impressive. The woman continues saying that transition missions are divided into 4 levels, and based on his current state, she recommends accepting a 3-star one. Curious, he asks why not 4? The woman explains that 4-star missions are far more difficult, and though she doesn't mean to sound rude, his class, warrior, is relatively weaker, and these missions must be completed alone. She emphasizes that class transition is a once-in-a-lifetime challenge. If he fails a 4-star mission, he will never be able to advance again. Yang understands but still raises his hand toward the altar. The statue begins to glow and a voice announces, "Transition requirements detected. Profession, warrior. Level, 20. Requirements met. Initiating transition mission." Then the options appear before him. 1-star mission. Defeat 10 common level 20 boars. Reward, choose between assault warrior or defensive warrior. 2-star mission. Defeat 20 common level 20 furious monkeys. Reward, choose between assault warrior or defensive warrior and receive a first-class common grade warrior skill book. 3-star mission. Defeat 30 common level 20 vanguard goblins. Reward, choose between assault warrior or defensive warrior and receive a first-class high-grade warrior skill book. 4-star mission. Defeat 50 common level 20 wild hounds and 20 elite level 20 bloodthirsty hounds. Reward, choose between assault warrior, defensive warrior, or bloodthirsty warlord and receive a first-class high-grade warrior skill book. But then something unexpected happens. A new option appears before him. A 5-star transition mission. Confused, the protagonist asks if it's real, if a 5-star mission actually exists. A description appears before his eyes. Location, Cold Moon Forest, 5-star transition mission. Objective, defeat 100 common level, 20 gray wolves, 10 elite level 20 wild wolves, and 1 level 20 gray wolf boss. Rewards, unlock the special transition path. Magic Warrior, gain 100 additional spirit points and obtain an epic grade first-class Magic Warrior skill. Note, transition missions cannot be completed in teams or using gifted or traded equipment. Completing a 5-star mission grants the player certain temple privileges. Still confused, Young asks the guide why she said the missions only went up to 4 stars and why there's a 5th one, also wanting to know what those privileges are. The woman looks surprised but then smiles, saying that 5-star missions do exist, but their difficulty is so extreme that no one in the entire Hua Kingdom has accepted one in years. As for the privileges, only the temple's high priest knows what they are. She apologizes, explaining that the lack of information about this type of mission was a mistake. Then she adds that since the beginning of the era of transitions, the power cap of each nation has been determined by its transistors, and to prevent promising talents from being stuck at level 20 due to poor choices, both the temple and the government decided to make higher-level paths more accessible. Yang nods, saying he understands, though he thinks the 5-star mission is truly insane. Besides the number of monsters, he'll also have to defeat a boss alone, without any help or external equipment. He knows that if he fails, he'll be stuck forever in his first class. Even so, that bonus of 100 spirit points and the chance to become a magic warrior are far too tempting, not to mention the mysterious temple privilege. The woman, noticing his hesitation, tries to advise him, saying that while the 4-star mission may seem tempting, the 3-star one suits his profession much better and is much safer. Yang smiles and thanks her for the advice, saying it was very helpful. She seems pleased, remarking that he's polite, and that it's their duty to guide candidates properly. But suddenly she feels something strange. The system announces that the protagonist has accepted the 5-star transition mission. 5-star transition mission accepted. Duration, 72 hours. Location, Cold Moon Forest. A massive surge of energy bursts from Yang, illuminating the entire temple. Shocked, the woman asks why he accepted it, and he replies with a grin that, after a quick analysis, he found this mission the most suitable for him. She tries to argue, warning him about the danger, but he walks past her, cutting her off and saying, "There's no need to worry, he'll be back soon after completing the mission. And besides, he's curious to find out what those temple privileges really are." The guide trembles, speechless, whispering that someone actually dared to accept a 5-star mission, and that they need to notify the high priest immediately. Meanwhile, in East Spirit City, a message appears on the teleportation portal. Due to an energy fluctuation, portal activation will be slightly delayed. Please wait patiently. Yang reads the notice, a bit surprised, then smiles, saying there's no rush. After all, this extra time will be perfect for calmly planning his journey through the Cold Moon Forest. Suddenly, a refined woman walks by, complaining that small cities are always a hassle. Even teleportation matrices experience delays. She tells Xiao Qian to stay close and not wander off. The woman is Zhu Yan, a member of the B-rank guild Phantom Cloud, and the girl beside her is Gu Xiaoqian, Yang's classmate. Qian says she's fine, but when she glances to the side, her eyes widen, and she asks if the young man standing in line is Su Yang. Xu Yan immediately pulls her closer and asks if she knows him. Qian explains that he's her classmate and, like her, only changed professions yesterday. Xu Yan frowns, finding it strange, and comments that this portal leads directly to the Cold Moon Forest, an area full of monsters above level 20. What would a novice be doing going there? Just then, a voice announces that the teleportation portal has resumed normal operation and asks everyone to proceed in order. Worried, Qian wonders if Yang entered by mistake and, fearing something might happen, tries to warn him, but Xu Yan stops her, saying it's too late. He's already gone. Qian panics, calling out to him, but the portal closes before her eyes. Moments later, in the Cold Moon Forest, a region with a recommended level between 20 and 30, Su Yang materializes among the trees, surveying his surroundings and confirming that he's indeed in the right place. He notices there's no one nearby. It seems all the hunters have already scattered to start their hunt. Just as he's about to do the same, he's ambushed by a wolf from the side but dodges easily. Looking at his attacker, he recognizes it as a common level 19 gray wolf, exactly the kind of creature mentioned in his mission. Yang thinks he didn't expect to find them so soon but gets ready for battle. He knows that relying solely on himself without using items or traded equipment would make the fight tough. However, the sword in his hands is a platinum-tier flame sword, and with a single strike, he cuts the monster down. Glancing at the blade, he comments that this drop had been expensive. Normally, at his level, he wouldn't even be able to use it, but thanks to a special gem obtained from the spirit hunters, he can equip high-tier weapons. During the refinement process, he broke several valuable gems, sold useless items, and made about 1 billion. Now, only 60 million remain. He laughs to himself, saying that if he sells that bow, the cost won't matter. Maybe Ming will buy it, which would make him a first-class fool. While reflecting, more wolves appear and charge at him. Even though they can't break through his shield, they keep attacking relentlessly. Yang sighs, amused by how stupid low-level monsters can be, not giving up even after taking such a beating. He then uses a silver-tier disposable scroll, Energized Barrier, whose effect creates a shield around the user capable of absorbing up to 50,000 points of damage. With the protection active, he advances and destroys all nearby enemies with ease, his sword slicing through the air wreathed in flames. When it's over, he gathers a few stones and observes the remains of the monsters, remarking that so far he's defeated every wolf that's come at him, but the annoying part is having to deal with them one by one. Checking his mission progress, he sees the update. Gray Wolf level 20, common, 15 100ths. He tosses the stones into the air, saying it's better if all the monsters come to him. The stones, dropped by a low-level boss, have the effect of attracting both common and elite monsters within a wide area. 5 minutes later, countless wolves surround him, and he comments with satisfaction that they've all finally arrived, praising the item's effect. Preparing for battle, he says that now all he needs to do is finish them off at once. He then takes out a special-level disposable skill scroll called Baptism of Flame, a level 70 technique that deals area of effect fire damage to all nearby enemies. He also drinks an intermediate mental potion, which increases spirit by 150 points for 2 hours. Activating the scroll and drinking the potion, he unleashes Baptism of Flame, incinerating countless monsters, though many still remain around him. Watching the scene, Young mutters that there must be over 100 enemies now, and wonders if he really attracted every monster in the forest, declaring that if that's the case, he'll answer with the same intensity. In another part of the forest, a group of people was walking when one of them commented that something felt strange because that area was usually full of monsters, yet they had already walked 2 kilometers without finding any. Another young man said that not long ago he had encountered a monster, but it didn't even attack him, Sai. It just ran off in the opposite direction, and he couldn't understand why. The redhead agreed, saying that the monsters in that place were usually aggressive, and asked since when they started running away upon seeing someone. After hearing all these stories, the man leading the group said he already knew what was happening. Someone must have used a monster attraction stone, drawing all the creatures toward themselves. Annoyed, he complained that some shameless guy was taking all the loot alone, and said that was a huge jerk move. He stormed off, saying he was going to teach that kid a lesson, because eating all the monsters alone wasn't fair since he wasn't the only one with a quest in the area. His companions agreed, saying they needed to demand an explanation because using a monster attraction stone in an open area was total disrespect. As they followed the direction where the creatures had fled, a massive explosion erupted. The 3 of them were shocked, and the blonde commented that a magical fluctuation of that level could only be caused by a level 30 mage. The redhead asked what kind of lunatic would farm materials in a low-level area and still managed to clear the entire Cold Moon jungle alone. The leader, sweating nervously, said he had just remembered an important appointment at home and needed to leave. The blonde agreed, claiming he also had something urgent to do, and the redhead suggested maybe they should come back later to finish the quest. Meanwhile, the protagonist remarked that the hard part was already done and only the boss was left. He had already eliminated 100 level 20 Grey Wolves and 20 elite level 20 Furious Wolves, leaving only the Alpha Wolf King. Walking calmly, he thought that this 5-star class change quest was actually quite easy, even if he had cheated a little. After a few more minutes, he arrived at the boss's lair, the Cold Moon Cave. The Alpha Wolf King was a creature recommended for groups of 3 or more level 20 players. Nearby, a trio was observing the cave entrance. Zhang, a level 22 mage, Li San, a level 21 tank warrior, and Zhao Wu, a level 21 forest archer. Zhang commented that they had finally arrived and asked if his teammates were ready. The warrior told him to relax, saying he had bought a basic strength potion and could hold the front line firmly. The archer noted that he had just changed class and hadn't even tested his new abilities yet, so he didn't know how strong he was. Zhang explained that the Alpha Wolf King should drop the Alpha Crystal Core, an item needed to forge his silver staff which would serve him until level 40. He ordered Li San to hold the aggro while he and Zhao Wu attacked from behind, entering as soon as the tank gave the signal. The archer asked them to wait because someone was approaching. The warrior asked if that guy had come to steal their loot, but the mage replied that he just looked like a lost student. The warrior suggested warning the kid about the danger, but Zhang slapped him on the head and asked if he was an idiot, explaining that the kid was walking straight into being their bait. Once he took the boss's first blast, they would swoop in and claim the reward effortlessly. The warrior praised him, saying his older brother was a true genius. Suddenly, the ground began to shake and they wondered if it was an earthquake. Meanwhile, the protagonist kept walking forward calmly, unfazed. The boss then appeared before him, but the aura surrounding it was completely different, something colossal and terrifying. Because of the large number of wolves killed in the Cold Moon jungle, the Alpha Wolf King had gone into a frenzy. The system announced that the Alpha Wolf King boss had entered a rage state and that all its attributes had increased by 30%. Li San complained, saying it didn't make sense for the boss to get angry out of nowhere, and asked if they were really going to fight that thing since he was starting to feel scared. Zhang, however, stood up and began walking toward the boss, saying he didn't care because if they ran away now, all their waiting time would be wasted. He said that if they missed this chance, they might never defeat that boss again. So, as soon as that kid died, Li San should immediately take the front line. In the middle of his speech, a deafening sound echoed, cutting him off. The protagonist had struck a single blow and instantly defeated the boss. The system announced that the Alpha Wolf King had been defeated and that he gained 30,000 experience points. Quest complete, Hill level 20, Boss Alpha Wolf King, 1 of 1. All tasks for the 5-star class change quest were completed, and he now needed to return to the transfer sanctuary to finalize the advancement. Yang looked around and commented that it was way too easy. When the items began appearing, he remarked that everything there was worthless junk and that he would just sell it straight to the shop. Then he received a notification saying that the Grey Wolf King's crystal core contained beast magic energy and could be used to enhance silver-grade weapons. Laughing, he commented that the quest had been way too easy and decided to head back. At that moment, Zhang approached, called him boss, and asked if, in case Yang didn't want the Wolf King's crystal core, he could keep it. The protagonist calmly turned around, planted his sword in the ground in front of the mage, and asked who had said they were going to use him as bait. Zhang panicked and shouted that it wasn't him, insisting he would never think of such a thing. Yang then crushed the magic crystal in his hand and replied that if he wanted the item so badly, he could go pick it up himself. As Yang walked away, Zhang collapsed to the ground in relief, laughing nervously and saying that had scared him to death. Thank goodness he hadn't done anything yet. The archer, still in shock, asked if that was real and if such power could actually exist, while the pale-faced warrior said it was absurd. The protagonist had defeated the boss with a single strike. They were left wondering who that guy really was. Sometime later at the temple, a receptionist commented that he was back too soon and asked if there was any question. Yang replied that he had completed the quest and was ready for his advancement. Surprised, she asked him to wait a moment while she called the person in charge. When the same woman from before arrived and saw him, she was completely astonished and asked if he had really completed a 5-star advancement quest. Yang simply confirmed, and she, confused, began checking the system, murmuring that he had accepted the quest that morning and that only a few hours had passed. It seemed impossible. After verifying everything, she still hesitated, saying that completing a 5-star advancement quest in a single day was unbelievable, even suspecting cheating for a moment. But the system found nothing, which meant he had done it all alone without taking a single scratch. Noticing her silence, Young asked if he could begin the advancement. The woman snapped out of her thoughts, apologized for her rudeness, and invited him to follow her. As they walked, she thought she'd done the right thing by informing the high priest, since a talent like his couldn't be wasted. She also looked him over more carefully and thought he was quite handsome, wondering if she could get his contact later. When they reached the statue chamber, she asked him to step forward, explaining that the statue would automatically verify the quest. As soon as he approached, several lights and streams of energy began flowing toward him. The system announced that it was verifying the class advancement quest. After a few seconds, it confirmed that all stages had been successfully completed and the quest approved. All the surrounding energy gathered and was absorbed into the protagonist's body, entering directly through his chest. Surprised, he remarked that this energy was far too powerful to be something ordinary. Soon, an intense aura flared around him. The Class Advancement Aura, a special reward for those who completed advancement quests. Its color and bonus varied by difficulty. A white aura granted 2% to all attributes, green 4%, blue 6%, purple 10%. And finally, the legendary orange aura, exclusive to 5-star quests, gave an astonishing 25% bonus to all attributes. The system announced, player Su Yang has advanced to the Class Magic Warrior. 5-star advancement quest completed. Orange aura activated. Attribute bonus plus 25%. The Magic Warrior class combined close quarters combat with extremely powerful spells, and because of his accumulated excess points, Su Yang began leveling up rapidly. The system kept notifying. First advancement completed. Level cap increased to 40. Experience detected. 44,600 points. Level increased to 34. 210 attribute points available. Without hesitation, he distributed the points. 90 to strength, 90 to spirit, and 30 to speed, feeling his power surge with each moment. He thought to himself that jumping straight to level 34 with the orange aura and the flaming sword's bonus had made him absurdly above average. When he checked his panel, the numbers were impressive. Su Yang, level 34, first advancement class. Magic Warrior. Strength, 569. Base 230 plus equipment, 339. Speed, 123, base 105 plus equipment, 18. Spirit, 339. Base 165 plus equipment, 174. The system also granted a special reward, an epic skill book for Magic Warriors. New skill acquired, Magic Blade, condenses magical energy into a weapon, increasing total damage proportionally to strength and spirit attributes. Young decided to test it right there, and the moment he activated the spell, magical pressure filled the entire room. He looked at the glowing blade with excitement and commented that the skill was incredible. Completely controllable by thought, capable of changing shape and adaptable to any type of combat. Moreover, it evolved along with him, like a legendary weapon that would never become obsolete. Simply perfect. Satisfied, he thought that the 5-star advancement quest had been worth every second, as the rewards were far superior to any other, and he promised himself he would keep taking quests of that level. The woman beside him congratulated him, saying his name would be engraved on the temple monument and that from now on, he was a VIP guest of the Class Advancement Temple. Curious, Yang asked what benefits a VIP would get. She told him to wait a moment while she checked, but before she could, a soft voice echoed through the hall saying there was no need. A beautiful woman with an imposing presence entered and greeted them both. She introduced herself as Bai Ling, senior priestess of the Class Advancement Temple of East Spirit City. The receptionist bowed nervously and asked why the senior priestess had come in person. Bai Ling smiled and replied that such an important guest deserved to be received by her personally, politely asking the attendant to leave. Su Yang watched the scene, recalling that a senior priestess was practically the temple's highest authority, which left him wondering why someone of her level would come just to receive him. Meanwhile, the first woman kept a calm expression, but inside she was devastated, regretting not getting the handsome man's contact before being dismissed. The senior priestess stepped closer and said that wasn't the best place to talk, asking the protagonist to relax because she would take him to the VIP room, where they could speak more comfortably. As soon as they joined hands and the chant was recited, transportation occurred, and in an instant they appeared inside a spacious VIP hall. Yang was astonished, wondering if that was real spatial teleportation. For a third-class priestess to master such an advanced technique, the temple's power must be unimaginable. Ling, however, explained that it wasn't quite like that since she could only use a portion of the temple statue's power. On the other hand, she said what truly surprised her was the protagonist himself, because according to the records, there had never been a 5-star class advancement in East Spirit City, and even in Heavenly Spirit City, it's a much more advanced city. The last case had occurred over 10 years ago. Yang was shocked to realize that Heavenly Spirit City was a higher level, far more developed city, and if even there a five-star advancement was that rare, the value of what he had just achieved was far greater than he imagined. The priestess then explained that according to temple rules, whoever completes a five-star class advancement for the first time receives great benefits. First, a monthly salary of 10 million in the national currency. Second, a black gold identity certification from the X-Union, granting 80% discounts on purchases and transactions. Hearing that, Yang was stunned. Being a temple VIP was unbelievably good. He didn't even care much about the salary. The black gold certification alone was worth a fortune. If he spent 100 million, he'd save 80 million, so the 10 million per month didn't even compare to that. He wondered if the temple really granted all that at once. Such generosity seemed unreal. Ling went on to explain that both the salary and certification had already been automatically linked to the protagonist's ID by the temple statue, so he didn't need to do anything. Furthermore, he could choose to join any rank A guild in the city. Yang asked if joining a guild was mandatory, and the priestess replied, not exactly, but reminded him that individual abilities have limits, while joining a guild provided experience bonuses, various advantages, and, most importantly, protection, which was usually the wiser choice. She then asked what he thought. The protagonist reflected that it made sense since solo players were always easy targets, especially someone like him who leveled up so fast. His strength was already enough to crush any player of the same level, but encountering someone much stronger could be dangerous. Having a guild support wasn't a bad idea. In truth, his goal went far beyond that city. Joining a guild would just be the first step, as what he truly wanted was to use it as a springboard to build his own power and one day become a king who ruled the entire region. After thinking for a moment, he asked which guilds were available. Ling replied that there were currently 2 rank A guilds in East Spirit City, and considering several factors, she believed the best choice for him would be the Spirit Hunters Guild. Hearing that, Yang realized it was the very same guild he had just destroyed and asked if there wasn't another option. The priestess then mentioned the Phantom Cloud Guild, rivals of the Spirit Hunters, which also had considerable strength, though it was much more discreet. Without hesitation, he said he would choose the Phantom Cloud Guild. The priestess was momentarily confused but quickly understood and said she would immediately arrange his admission into the Phantom Cloud Guild. However, before that, there was something he needed to know. The Phantom Cloud Guild was composed entirely of women. Meanwhile, in East Spirit City, inside the headquarters of the Phantom Cloud Guild, a girl was lying down reading a book, complaining about how boring everything was, and that there was nothing interesting to do. That was Lin Yu, level 85, former leader of the B-rank Phantom Cloud Guild. Another woman sitting at a nearby table commented that Yu wasn't even part of the guild anymore and yet showed up every day to slack off, and still had the nerve to complain. That was Lin Yu, level 99, current leader of the now A-rank Phantom Cloud Guild. Yu replied that guild matters were too much of a hassle and she didn't have the patience to deal with them. At that moment, Shu Yan suddenly burst into the room saying that even so, Yu couldn't just disappear without notice, and reminding her she should at least greet the new members. Shortly after, Qian entered and greeted them both, introducing herself as Gu Shui Qian, an ice elementalist. Yu studied her carefully and remarked that she was quite cute, saying she was approved. Suddenly, a notification appeared for Yun. When she opened it, she looked utterly horrified. Yu asked what had happened, and Yun replied that a man had just joined the guild out of nowhere. She explained that the place was in chaos, with everyone talking about the unexpected entry, and even after she asked around, no one could explain what had happened. Yu scoffed, saying the guild had a rule to accept only women, and asked if there had been some mistake. Yun shook her head and said the new member had been assigned directly by the temple. He had completed a 5-star advancement quest and earned VIP status, granting him the right to choose any rank A guild so she couldn't refuse. Qian was amazed, saying it was unbelievable for someone to achieve something so difficult. Yu became excited too, saying that person must be truly incredible. Shu Yan still looked doubtful, asking why that guy hadn't chosen the Spirit Hunters instead. Yun replied that she didn't understand either, but decided to put it aside for now, saying she would schedule a meeting with him soon, and, if he caused trouble, they would find a way to kick him out. Qian was surprised upon hearing the name Su Yang, and Yun asked if they knew each other, since the newcomer was also from Dongling City. Qian confirmed that she had a friend with that name, but said he had just awakened yesterday and should still be level 1 like her. Yun concluded it must just be a coincidence of names. At that moment, another woman rushed into the room informing the guildmaster that she had just received confirmed news. The Spirit Hunters Guild had been completely wiped out in the Black Dragon dungeon. She said she didn't know what they had been plotting, but the fact was that they were annihilated. That was Murong Shui, level 95, a member of the Phantom Cloud Guild. Yu Yun was shocked and said that if the spirit hunters had been destroyed, they needed to revise their entire strategy for the giant forest raid. Murong added that she had heard Ming's weapon exploded and that she saw an item called Call of the Storm being auctioned at the trading house, with only one bid active in East Spirit City, probably from one of the spirit hunters. She told the guildmaster to guess what she did. Yu Yun laughed and asked if she had raised the price. Murong confirmed proudly, saying she joined the auction and drove the price sky high, surpassing 10 billion and causing the spirit hunters massive losses. Yu Yu burst into laughter too, praising her and saying she did great. Meanwhile, Ming sneezed and, with tears in his eyes, swore that the Black Dragon and the Ice Witch had become his mortal enemies. Shan lamented that the seller wasn't responding to private messages, and that 14 billion had been a devastating blow to the guild's finances. Yuan concluded that the news about Ming's weapon exploding had probably already spread and that the malicious auction was clearly a premeditated trap. The guild leader kicked Ming, ordering him to get up and asking how long he planned to keep hiding, since they had already retrieved the gear and it was time to get back to work. They then headed together toward the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. As soon as the meeting began, the pavilion leader, Zhou Tai, asked if they were seriously claiming the strategy was wrong, calling it a joke. He stated that they had cleared the Black Dragon's lair at least 5 times and had built the strategy in detail based on that experience, leaving no room for mistakes. Zhou Tai asked if they were sure they had followed everything exactly as instructed. Zhou Tai was a bloodthirsty warrior, level 110, 5th transformation, and the head of the strategy group of the Exploration Guild Celestial Mechanism Pavilion. Sean replied firmly that he was absolutely certain they had followed the pavilion strategy, but the Black Dragon boss's behavior had been completely different from expected. He emphasized that he wasn't questioning Zhou Tai's experience, but guaranteed everything he said was true, asking if Zhou Tai really thought he'd sacrifice his entire guild's main force just to deceive them, which would be absurd. A man playing with a knife interrupted, mocking them, saying the spirit hunters were a bunch of useless weaklings who'd been handed the strategy on a silver platter, yet still got wiped out by a level 99 boss. He laughed, asking what use was a pile of trash like them and who gave them the courage to cling to his group. That man was Lu Ci, a shadow assassin, level 103, 5th transformation. Sean tried to remain respectful and asked him to mind his words, but Lu Ci kept provoking, saying that if they were weak, they should just train harder, and if they couldn't handle losing, they shouldn't be playing. Zhou Tai then scolded him harshly, ordering him to shut up, reminding everyone that the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion Guild had always valued integrity and never sold false information. He declared that he would personally organize a new expedition into the Black Dragon's lair, and if the strategy truly had flaws, the pavilion would fully compensate the spirit hunter's losses. However, if the strategy proved correct, it would mean Sean made a mistake, and then the problem would be entirely his. Zhou Tai asked if those terms were acceptable. Sean thanked him and agreed. Zhou Tai concluded by saying that the next day, the 4 of them would take Sean to investigate the dungeon and asked if anyone had objections. Zhang Kexin, a holy healer of the 5th transformation, level 108, said there was no problem. Zhuang Zhen, a barrier master of the 5th transformation, level 104, also agreed. Liu Ci merely muttered that it was fine. Suddenly, a murderous aura filled the room and a black mist spread out. The Spirit Hunters members stood up, ready to fight, and their leader demanded to know who that man was. Zhou Tai, however, remained calm and told them not to panic, saying that it was Lord Chen Lun. The Spirit Hunters' leader was stunned and asked if he was one of the big names from headquarters. Chen Lun, a necromancer of the 5th transformation, level 115, from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion, looked at Zhou Tai and asked if he had forgotten to inform him whenever planning an expedition into the Black Dragon's lair. Zhou Tai immediately bowed and apologized, explaining that it was only a reconnaissance mission and they hadn't meant to bother him. Chen Lun said it was fine, told him not to explain, and announced that he would join them the next day. Then he began acting strangely, his eyes empty and his smile twisted, muttering that souls were delicious, that with every harvest his treasure grew stronger, and that even killing thousands of times would never be enough. He then raised his hand, chuckling softly, and said for his dear Black Dragon to wait for him, so that once again it could be reaped. Zhou Tai thought to himself that he really couldn't stand that creepy old man, while Shan felt a bit of relief. With 5 5th transformation professionals and even a specialist from the Celestial Mechanism Pavilion headquarters, a team of that caliber could crush a 4th-rank dungeon with ease. They were practically guaranteed to succeed. In fact, if they managed to slay the Black Dragon, that would be great. But if they were wiped out by it, that would be even better. Whether the strategy was legitimate or not, that arrogant team of tacticians needed to pay a heavy price. What he truly wanted was for them to die together with the Black Dragon. Later that night, lying in his room, the protagonist browsed through the guild chat and couldn't help but laugh. It really lived up to being an all-female guild, as the channel never stopped updating, and most of the messages were about him. Thankfully, he had muted it quickly, otherwise he would have died of boredom already. Suddenly, he received a notification informing him that a new bid had been placed on the diamond-grade weapon, Call of the Storm, which he had listed at the auction house. Curious to see who was bidding, he opened the history and was surprised to find 2 players had been competing for more than 10 pages. The latest bid was from Noble Elf, at 14 billion and 30 million. The system warned that the value exceeded the maximum average price by 40% and asked if he wished to confirm the sale. Without hesitation, he clicked yes and silently thanked the unknown ice witch for helping drive the price up. Moments later, he received confirmation that the transaction had been completed successfully. Because he was a distinguished member of the X-Union Black Gold, all transaction fees were waived, and he even received a 5% bonus on the final amount. His balance was updated to 15,515 million, and he was astonished to realize that the tax exemption plus the bonus meant an extra 10% profit. He had just earned over $1 billion more. The feeling was exhilarating, exactly the kind of privilege a distinguished member deserved. Closing his eyes, he muttered that he'd take a short rest, already looking forward to his next part-time shift the next day. That feeling of crushing the weak was addictive, and after tasting that pleasure, who would ever want to go back to grinding monsters the old way? At 7 in the morning, the alarm went off, and with it came a new notification saying that the cooldown for his part-time job had ended. A group was now challenging the dungeon, 5 members from an exploration team and 1 from a ranked guild, the Lingen. The system asked if he wanted to establish connection. As he stood up, he saw it was the famous exploration team known as the Dungeon Slayers, who had already conquered several dungeons and created strategies for each one. The guild included many 5th transformation professionals above level 100, so this sudden visit was likely related to the Spirit Hunters massacre. Yang smiled confidently, thinking that if they brought only 6 people, they must be overly confident in their abilities, which meant he wouldn't go easy on them. He confirmed the connection, and the system announced that it was successful. Transforming into the Black Dragon, he thought it was time to start his second part-time shift. As soon as the transformation was complete, he reflected that the subordinate monsters that had died earlier had also respawned, but nothing particularly strange occurred. After all, this was the Black Dragon's lair, merely a diamond-grade secret realm that could be reset like a game. Only star-grade or higher secret realms couldn't be explored more than once. He looked toward the imprisoned elf, who asked what he was plotting this time. From the Black Dragon's perspective, he thought she looked more like a cute little pet than a prisoner. Still, he grew curious about how that elf girl had been captured, since when he wasn't connected, the Black Dragon was supposed to act strictly according to the preset rules. Even so, he decided to check the composition of the invading party. Seeing the full team, he commented that it was as expected, 5 5th transformation professionals, including Shan from the Spirit Hunters, which meant they had come to clean up last time's mess. The exploration team's coordination was impressive. He concluded their formation was far superior to the previous one, but as long as they didn't touch the Dragon Slayer's heart, they wouldn't be a real problem. Still, to be safe, he wanted to test the team's strengths and weaknesses. You could never underestimate 5th transformation professionals. He turned to his subordinates and ordered them to take the lesser soldiers outside and deal with the invaders, leaving only one behind. The enemy group began discussing among themselves, saying they had reached this far without encountering any irregularities, and that the strategy data had been verified. Wondering if the Spirit Hunters had actually lied, the Shadow Assassin said it was more likely they had made mistakes and were now looking for excuses. Kexen urged them not to let their guard down and to maintain the barrier while calmly preparing for the boss fight. Liu Ci suddenly felt uneasy and asked what was happening, as a thick cloud of dust began rising and a powerful killing intent was detected. Shocked, they realized a horde of monsters had appeared. The creatures shouted that no intruder would be left alive and that they must attack immediately. Shan snapped his fingers and said that it was exactly like last time, but this time, there were even more monsters. Zhou Tai commented that while unexpected, that level of threat wasn't enough to endanger the exploration team. Liu Ci rushed forward, saying they needed to activate the battle formation. He would draw the elite monsters' attention while the others wiped out the smaller ones, and once that was done, they could focus entirely on the bosses. He unleashed his skill Shadow Rend, Jen activated Mountain Barrier, Zhou Tai struck with Violent Slash, and the healer cast Blessing of Holy Light. With that, they wiped out the horde effortlessly. The leader stated they'd lost a few minutes and needed to keep moving. Watching everything, the protagonist admitted that they truly lived up to being fifth transformation specialists. Their power looked like that of immortals strolling through the mortal world. And that mysterious mage hadn't even moved yet, meaning he was definitely no ordinary opponent. It seemed he'd have to step in personally. As he began to take flight, his army cheered, shouting that Lord Athos was about to act again. But he frowned, wondering why they'd said again. Another soldier commented that he'd never seen Lord Athos take the initiative before, yet the scene felt strangely familiar. The elf, watching, asked what was going on since he was acting ahead of this prediction. She questioned what was wrong with the black dragon. When she was captured, he hadn't behaved like this. While the group advanced, Sean remarked that the elite team under the Celestial Pavilion's command was truly impressive, and that, for the first time, he could witness the might of a real exploration squad, but admitted the situation wasn't in the recorded strategy. Joe Tai agreed, saying everything looked different and promising to investigate once they finished the dungeon. The necromancer mocked them, saying they couldn't even handle trash mobs, yet still called themselves a guild that never loses. What a joke. While collecting the corpses, he muttered with satisfaction that he'd just added another batch of fresh dragon bodies to his collection. Sean defended himself, telling Master Chen that even if his guild's strength seemed insignificant to the necromancer, there were still flaws in the strategy. As the Celestial Pavilion's leader, he should be more objective. Suddenly, Chen burst out laughing like a madman, saying the spirit hunter's leader was just a brat and yet dared to question him, and that if he kept talking, he might end up as another piece in his collection. Sean froze in terror, but Joe Tai quickly intervened, asking the master not to joke like that, since he was scaring the clients and suggesting they calm down. Sean exhaled in relief, thinking it was over, while Joe Tai silently cursed that perverted old man for acting recklessly. If he actually killed that guy, they'd lose future contracts. Even so, Sean, still fuming, thought those arrogant bastards had better enjoy their pride while it lasted. He wanted to see if they'd still be laughing after meeting the Black Dragon. Suddenly, darkness swallowed the entire area. He looked up horrified and fell to the ground, stammering that it was really him. Joe Tai shouted in disbelief, asking why the boss had appeared earlier than expected and how it was even possible. Jen questioned if there had been some mistake. Now it was clear the spirit hunters hadn't lied. The leader barked for everyone to form the battle formation immediately. Jen was to maintain the barrier, Liu Ci needed to be ready to transform at any moment, and the healers were to prioritize the Shadow Assassin, keeping his HP at 30%. After the orders, he activated Frenzied Bloodsong, and the system announced that the Berserker talent increased all attributes when HP dropped below 30%, also reducing incoming damage. The team began their assault, but the protagonist merely watched, curious to see what they could do. Blows rained down, each dealing between 12 and 16,000 damage. The team muttered that the numbers seemed off, but Yang thought that was expected. Even fifth transformation professionals couldn't inflict much damage thanks to the Black Dragon's innate damage reduction traits. Joe Tai explained that the boss also had multiple resistance buffs and told everyone to keep attacking. The protagonist countered, but the Shadow Assassin managed to predict the strike. Yang watched him intently, wondering if he could also anticipate the next move. Suddenly, the two in the back shouted that the boss had switched targets and was charging toward them. He used Dragon Rush, but the leader quickly intercepted and shielded them. Yang thought it was a waste. He'd had the perfect chance to eliminate the weakest ones. Taking advantage of the moment, Liu Ci dashed behind the boss, declaring that all his weaknesses were exposed and that he'd now taste his blade. Entering shadow form, his speed and critical rate skyrocketed, empowering all his skills with the shadow attribute. The assassin launched his strongest technique, Shadow Thrust, shouting for the boss to die. Yet the damage only ranged between 11 and 13,000. Enraged, he screamed that this execution-type skill could bring down lesser star-rank dungeon bosses with millions of HP, so how could it deal so little to a diamond-rank dungeon boss? Was the dragon's damage reduction really that ridiculous? Yang lunged forward, saying it was his turn to expose their weaknesses and send them straight to hell, slashing the assassin down to a mere 1% of his health. The protagonist thought he was insanely lucky to have survived by a thread, but wondered how many times that guy thought he'd get that lucky again. The team gathered around the fallen assassin, and Jen muttered that it was close. He had survived with almost no HP left and still managed to protect him. He yelled for Kexen to heal him immediately, but before she could act, his eyes widened in disbelief as the boss began using that skill. He couldn't believe it. They were about to be hit by Annihilation Breath. Joe Tai frowned, confused, asking if that wasn't the boss's ultimate transition ability, one that should only trigger when its HP dropped below 70%. So why was it activating at the very start of the battle? Flames engulfed the battlefield, and Yang realized they were still alive. but that attack should have been the Barrier Master's last defensive resort. The next strike, powered by Annihilation Breath, would be enough to wipe them out completely. The team argued among themselves while the Necromancer questioned why the boss wasn't following its normal pattern. Joe Tai replied that it seemed the boss had developed intelligence, understanding tactics and exploiting weaknesses. The others snapped at him to stop joking around, insisting that a diamond-ranked dungeon boss's behavior pattern should be fixed. So how had it suddenly become that smart? The Barrier Master's ultimate skill reduced damage taken by allies inside the sanctuary by 90% and automatically regenerated their HP for 10 seconds, with a cooldown of 360 seconds. The Necromancer took to the air, furious, saying his team was full of useless weaklings. As usual, he'd have to handle everything himself. He unleashed his power, chanting, "From the endless depths of the underworld, awaken, ancient soul, heed my will, obey my command, use your majesty and power to bring destruction upon this world. Arise, Bone Dragon Malthus." A massive surge of energy erupted as a colossal skeletal dragon materialized. The protagonist watched the creature in awe, wondering if that man was truly a necromancer. Necromancers were among the rarest of classes, and it was said that high-level ones could summon undead as strong as dungeon bosses themselves, which made him wonder if that bone dragon was really on his level. Chen commanded his monster to attack and finish the boss, and the two dragons clashed in a fierce, world-shaking battle. Yang was impressed by the absurd power. That fragile-looking dragon radiated incredible strength. Still, he fought back, roaring for it to move aside as he slammed the undead creature backward. The bone dragon let out a furious roar and released Inferno of the Shadowed Dead, an immense beam of destruction. Yang didn't retreat. Instead, he countered with Annihilation Breath, scoffing and asking if the bone dragon really thought its ultimate attack could scare him. The two forces collided, causing a colossal explosion that split the skies. Hiding behind a rock, Shan muttered that he had never seen anyone face a boss's ultimate head-on like that. Zhou Tai, also crouched behind cover, thought that Chen might be a disgusting lunatic, but even he had to admit the man's power was terrifying. The protagonist, however, realized that his opponent's breath was indeed powerful, yet he still hadn't gone all out. He unleashed Annihilation Breath once more, this time with even greater force. The skeletal dragon vanished from sight, and Yang asked mockingly if that was all, but then felt something gripping one of his claws. Looking down, he was shocked to see the bone dragon had grabbed him again, regenerating as it clung to him. From behind, the necromancer laughed darkly, saying that as long as there were fresh corpses, his bone dragon would always rise and fight for him. Yang thought to himself that this was truly the mark of a real necromancer. The bone dragon lunged forward, unleashing a devastating combo that cut the protagonist's HP down to 81%. Concerned, he admitted that the damage was far greater than that of any normal hunter, and that if things continued like this, he could actually lose. Even so, he countered with perfect timing, landing a powerful strike that smashed the bone dragon into the ground. Then he took flight, thinking he needed to recover his stamina quickly. The bone dragon tried to flap its wings but failed to lift off. Chen, frustrated, ordered his summon to attack from a distance, and it began firing multiple strikes. But Yang easily dodged them, laughing that such attacks would never reach him. He smirked, realizing that now, with him in the air, the summoner was completely exposed. The necromancer noticed the danger and screamed for the dragon to return and protect him, exactly what Yang had been waiting for. He accelerated at full speed, declaring it was time to end this, and used Dragon Rush, throwing variant, slamming both the bone dragon and the necromancer at once with overwhelming force. With a single blow, both enemies' HP dropped to 20%, their bodies crashing to the ground amid a massive explosion. The protagonist was surprised to see they still had that much life left. He'd assumed that fragile mage would have been reduced to ashes instantly. Jen quickly raised a barrier and ordered Kexen to heal them as fast as possible, saying they needed to retreat to a safe zone. She explained that they'd survived only thanks to her pain share skill, which split half of the damage among allies, reducing the impact by 50%. Chen glanced at the leader, thinking that if he hadn't acted at the perfect moment again, they'd have been wiped out long ago. He asked if Lu Si hadn't returned yet. The leader, calm and composed, said that by his calculations, the assassin should be arriving any second now. The protagonist frowned, realizing he hadn't even noticed the shadow assassin's disappearance, and wondering if the man had gone to steal the dragon heart. Suddenly, the healer shouted that Liu Xi was back, and everyone cheered, convinced victory was theirs. But Yang thought they were celebrating too soon. A smaller monster that had stayed behind came running, calling for its lord and announcing its return. Holding up the item, it said it had obtained the dragon heart and completed its mission. Yang praised it, saying it had done very well. Zhou Tai froze, asking how that was possible. Yang, reaching out toward the dragon heart and sneering that those worthless fools thought they could trick him. But he was already prepared. Clutching the heart, he declared their victory assured. Yet as soon as he touched it, his expression changed. Something was wrong. An immense surge of energy burst forth and the system announced, "Uncontrollable factors detected. Diamond-grade secret realm. Black Dragon's lair. Imminent level alteration. Secret realm ascending. Star level." The ascension shook everything, and the Black Dragon's roar echoed beyond the realm itself. Outside, people panicked, asking what was happening and whether an earthquake had struck the area. A disciple rushed to her master, the priestess, reporting an abnormal rise in spiritual energy and asking what it meant. Ling replied that she sensed an overwhelmingly powerful aura emerging from within a secret realm and admitted she never imagined something like that could affect the real world. They both ran outside, witnessing a pillar of light piercing the sky. Ling murmured that something enormous was about to unfold. Meanwhile, inside the Black Dragon's lair, the exploration team was in complete panic. Sean screamed that it was impossible, asking how the dungeon level could rise to star grade. Was this really happening to them? Jen trembled in fear, saying he'd never heard of a dungeon evolving like that before. Athos, the black flame-winged dragon, star level. The protagonist, still trying to comprehend, wondered if he had truly become a creature of that tier. The system responded, informing him that he had reached level 100, all attributes had increased, and star-level skills had been unlocked. Opening his status window, he was stunned by the absurd growth of his stats and the appearance of a new star-tier ability. The display read, Boss Athos Black Flame Wings, Early Growth Stage, Level 100, HP 6 million, Attribute Shadow, Race, Dragon, Strength 4,221, Speed 17,022, Spirit 1,821, New Skill Spiritual Tongue, Purifying Infernal Prison. Description: summons an immensely powerful prison of black flames that annihilates anyone who resists, dealing magic damage equal to 1,000% of the strength attribute. Young thought that not only was the skill unbelievably powerful, but it also had a resurrection blocking effect. In an era where no one truly died unless their level reset, that was practically a cheat. The system added a note: enemies killed by this ability would have their souls completely destroyed, making resurrection impossible, and the user could choose whether to enable that effect. Confused, he asked what was happening, and the system explained that obtaining the key item, Dragon Slayer's Heart, had triggered an evolution. Everything made sense now. The Black Dragon was originally meant to be star level, but because of the Dragon Slayer's Heart, its racial traits had been suppressed, reducing the dungeon's difficulty to Diamond. Now, with the Heart's effect gone, its true difficulty had returned. Looking at the exploration team, Young thought he still didn't fully understand what early growth stage meant, but one thing was certain: the entire situation had changed completely. Suddenly, Liu Ci came running, catching the protagonist's attention. Liu shouted that he had searched the entire tomb but couldn't find any Dragon Slayer's heart and asked if he had done something wrong. But when he saw the black dragon before him, he froze, asking if that was really the boss and what the hell had happened to it. Then, noticing what was in the dragon's claws, he screamed in terror, realizing the heart was with the dragon itself. Zhou Tai yelled for the shadow assassin not to act alone and ordered him to fall back immediately, wondering if that idiot hadn't seen the system notification. Liu Ci darted from side to side, laughing and saying the boss should relax because there was no way such a brute could catch someone as fast as him. But with a single motion, the protagonist's claw appeared before him, striking him down and slamming him into the ground. The system displayed, Party member Liu Ci eliminated. Sean asked what they should do now, and Zhou Tai thought grimly that normally, star-level dungeon bosses required a raid of 10 to 20 fifth transformation players to defeat. There was no way to win with such a small team. The only option left was to run. He turned and bolted, shouting that the fight was impossible and they needed to escape. The chromatic mage questioned if he was really running away at such a critical moment, but he insisted that fighting under these conditions was suicide. Yang watched and commented that it was a wise decision, but added coldly that he wouldn't let a single one of them escape. In a flash, he shot toward them like lightning. The group ran frantically, the leader shouting that he could see the portal ahead and urging everyone to hurry, but then Sean froze. The black dragon appeared before them, blocking the exit completely. Everyone screamed, unable to understand how he'd moved so fast. Zhou Tai ordered everyone to activate all defensive buffs and push forward with everything they had. If they managed to escape, it would count as victory. But the black dragon spread its wings and unleashed annihilation breath, engulfing everything in a sea of black fire. Screams echoed as the flames devoured the surroundings. Half the team was obliterated in a single blast. Zhen, barely standing, gasped that the damage from a star-level boss was absurd. Even his strongest barrier had been shattered in one hit. The leader said his mana was almost gone, and that if the boss used one more skill, they'd all die. He ordered everyone to store their most valuable items in their infinite rings. At least that way, they wouldn't lose everything once they fell, since all hope was gone. But the necromancer refused to accept defeat. Rage twisting his face, he released all his power, screaming that it was impossible. He wouldn't give up, not after killing that dragon more than 1,000 times and memorizing every single one of its moves. Even if it had ascended to star level, he believed he could still defeat it. With a crazed look, he began chanting, "Souls of the dead, asleep in the realm of time, use my power as the bridge to shatter the boundary between life and death and return to this world. Legion of the Clouds." An army of spirits began rising, and the system displayed the spell's description. Summons all dead creatures on the battlefield to fight alongside the caster. Infinite duration. Continuously drains the caster's mana and life. Chen ordered his undead legion to attack and destroy the boss, but the protagonist crushed them effortlessly, swatting them away like insects. The bone dragon attempted to unleash its breath again, but the protagonist tanked it head-on, thinking that such a pathetic flame couldn't even scratch his scales. He grabbed the bone dragon's head and smashed it into the ground, glaring directly at the necromancer. Even with his face mangled, Chen laughed hysterically, shouting that his hunters were immortal, that even if he failed now, he would return to torment the dragon again and again until he devoured its soul completely. He kept laughing, saying it was a pity star-level dungeons couldn't be repeated, because he would have loved to haunt him forever. Yang watched silently, thinking that after everything they had done, they still believed they could leave alive. Floating upward, he decided it was the perfect time to test his new skill. He invoked Spiritual Tongue, purifying infernal prison. A massive sphere of black flames formed, engulfing the entire battlefield as screams of agony filled the air. The chromatic maid shrieked that the burns were unbearable, but promised that next time she would make the boss suffer 100 times worse, laughing madly. The protagonist approached and replied calmly that there wouldn't be a next time. In that instant, her HP bar dropped to 0 and she panicked, realizing her soul was disintegrating and the transfer hadn't begun. Yang told her she would have no more chances to revive. Her time had come to vanish for good. In the next moment, every member of the exploration team was completely annihilated. The system displayed a cascade of notifications. You killed Zhou Tai, level 110, experience plus 21, 987,637. You killed Zhang Hexen, level 108, experience plus 1, 986,123. You killed Zhuangzhen, level 104, experience plus 1, 577,633. You killed Liu Ci, level 103, experience plus 1, 662,321. You have completely eliminated Chen Lun, Necromancer, level 115, experience plus 25, 461,981. The total accumulated experience reached 9.91 million, raising the protagonist level from 34 to 40, the cap before the next transformation. The system then issued a warning, urging him to complete the transformation as soon as possible, since due to experience overflow, 40% had been lost, leaving 5.99 million safely stored. Sometime later, at the Celestial Pavilion Guild, the leader and the rest of the team were sitting at the table, when Kexen suddenly burst through that door shouting that he was back. Zhou Tai asked if he had any news about Master Chen. The healer replied that, in fact, there was no news at all, and worse, all the information about Master Chen had disappeared from the Celestial Pavilion. That could only mean one thing. Either someone deliberately erased it, or he was dead. The Shadow Assassin commented that the dragon had ignored the high-level protection mechanism and completely exterminated Master Chen. Based on that, he asked what kind of boss the Black Flame Wing really was. Zhou Tai trembled in shock, thinking this was far beyond what they could handle, and that they first needed to compensate the spiritual hunters for their losses and let headquarters make the decision. Still, he wondered, if all of it was true and Master Chen had truly been wiped out, maybe some special mechanism, or even the boss itself, had allowed them to enter on purpose. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Yang was drinking a soda and relaxing on the couch, saying he was exhausted. The skill level of that exploration group was way above the spiritual hunters, and he had to push himself hard. But when he looked at the equipment and items he had gained, he said it was worth it. After all, coming from an S-rank guild, the drops were insanely good. He held the dagger in his hand and noted that two things had really caught his attention. The first was the S-rank star-tier dagger, Dark Bloodthirst, described as the pinnacle of the assassin's art, forged in the abyss of shadows, having claimed countless lives. its bloodlust never ceasing and the cries of the lost still echoing. Equipment restrictions, none by class. Level requirement, 101. Attributes, plus 80 agility, plus 400 strength. Traits, Shadow Body, consumes mana to become invisible for a short time, and increases speed by 50%. Mark of Compassion, consumes mana to mark the target, enabling a stealth attack with 300% increased damage. The other item was a legendary skill scroll with 5 charges, Thunder's Tempest Blades, described as allowing unconditional activation of the Storm of 4,000 Blades skill up to 5 times. The protagonist jumped excitedly from the couch, saying his luck was unbelievable. Last time he got a diamond rank weapon, and now he had managed to get a star rank one. Unlike Call of the Storm, he could actually equip this dagger, not to mention that skill scroll. It was absurdly strong, powerful enough to instantly kill a 4th transformation player with no usage restrictions. He put on his coat. Now he was in his first transformation, Magic Warrior, level 40, ready for the 2nd transformation. He said his level had reached 40, and it was a shame to waste the extra experience. But what really made him think was whether that necromancer named Chen had really died and could no longer resurrect. The system answered yes and informed him that the necromancer Chen Lun had been completely eradicated. The host's decision had been correct, as data analysis showed a high probability that the necromancer Chen Lun would have killed the host if he had obtained the dragon heart, and if the host were defeated by another player while acting as a boss, his death would be permanent, so caution was necessary. Yang was startled and concluded that eliminating that guy had truly been the best decision, because if he had hesitated even for a moment, he might have died himself. He took a deep breath and thought that after this, that exploration team probably wouldn't dare mess with him again anytime soon. He kept thinking and said he'd heard before that star rank bosses are called true spirit creatures and have their own consciousness, which made him wonder what the Black Dragon's situation had been while he was in control. The system explained that system-bound bosses have their consciousness completely erased regardless of rank, and that when the host is not connected, the boss acts according to preset behavior patterns and rules. Furthermore, the system added that if the host kills a boss while in control, it will automatically be replaced by an even stronger one. Yang got excited and said now that was an advantage, and apparently it was time to hunt a dragon. When he opened his hand, he noticed an unexpected item there and realized everything fit perfectly. The system identified the item as being of unknown rank, naming it Layered Dragon Heart. Description: forged in the blood of a dragon, slain by a warrior blessed by the goddess, the dragon's heart was transformed into a relic of battle, but the nameless hero who carried it was forgotten, leaving behind only this testimony of the past. The Dragon Slayer's sword has vanished. Unlockable attributes: Spirit plus 50%, Strength plus 100%. Traits: Dragon Slayer's Radiance, ignores dragons' racial talents and increases damage against draconic creatures by 500%. Special effect: Blood Soul of the Ancestral Hero. When combined with an amulet soaked in dragon's blood, it can summon the spirit of an ancestral hero to aid in battle. Unlock condition: slay a dragon alone. Restrictions for using the ancestral hero's soul. Charges accumulate for each dragon slain, currently 0. He began to imagine that this blood soul of the ancestral hero probably referred to the legendary Dragon Slayer, and that whoever earned that title must have been an absurdly powerful warrior, far beyond a 5th transformation professional. And with an ally like that, no one would dare face him. Gripping the amulet tightly, he declared that killing the Black Dragon and changing classes to unlock the summon would be his next goals. He then left his apartment, saying it was time to accept his 2nd transformation quest. Meanwhile, at the temple entrance, the priestess was waiting outside for someone. People watched, commenting that she was incredible, not only a temple priestess, but also stunningly beautiful. Some wondered who could have enough status to make her wait outside, while others admitted they were jealous of whoever she was expecting. Ling stood there with her eyes closed and silent until she sensed something and called upon the statue's blessing. Opening her eyes, she bowed slightly and asked the noble lord how she might assist him. Yang, who had just arrived, was surprised and wanted to know why she called him noble lord and how she knew he was coming. The priestess explained that just seconds earlier, the transformation statue had emitted a beam of light, signaling that a VIP of the temple was about to arrive. And in the entire East Spirit City, there was only one VIP, him. As for the title of Noble Lord, it was simply a temple requirement, so he needn't worry. The protagonist, a bit embarrassed, said he understood but found it all a little over the top. A short while later, he approached the statue again, and the system notified him that a 5-star transformation quest had been accepted. Second transformation: 5-star quest, complete 2 silver-ranked dungeons alone and defeat the boss within 3 minutes of engagement. He thought that normally those dungeons required a party, but this mission basically forced him to go solo. Though for him, that was almost the same as having no restriction at all. Ling approached and remarked that this was expected. After all, he had accepted another 5-star quest, worthy of a true warrior. Yang replied that it was nothing special, and asked if she happened to have a map of the silver-ranked dungeons near East Spirit City. The priestess confirmed and asked him to wait a few minutes. Soon after, she returned and handed him a scroll containing the requested dungeon map, as well as additional information on the respawn times and locations of bronze and gold-ranked dungeons. The protagonist thanked her and started to leave, but the priestess stopped him, explaining that a terrible accident had recently occurred in a dungeon. The difficulty had suddenly spiked, and one professional had disappeared. Moreover, the low-level hunting areas were overcrowded, and many were clashing violently over dungeon access, so he should be careful. Young thanked her for the warning and said he'd stay alert, but soon began thinking that with so many low-level dungeons near East Spirit City, he should easily find 2 silver ones to clear. However, things didn't go as planned. He went through every nearby dungeon and all were packed, to the point where he questioned whether it was even worth fighting over a silver-ranked one. After quite some time, he stopped, exhausted, commenting that after checking 7 or 8 dungeons in a row, all were occupied. Terrible luck. And joked that maybe he'd triggered the so-called law of luck conservation after getting too many good drops. He walked to the edge of a cliff and checked the map, saying that the entrance to the dungeon called Cavern of Suffering should be right ahead. But when he looked, he grew irritated to see people there. Looking closer, he noticed Wang was present, and Qian, Wang's friend, was with him. He found her presence odd, noticed she looked worried, and heard her telling Wang not to try to steal the dungeon since they had clearly arrived first. Yang's irritation grew at Wang's attitude. Wang apologized, saying that the Phantom Rain Guild's name wasn't engraved on the dungeon, and if they wanted to go in, the stronger side should take it. That made Yang wonder if Phantom Rain might be a sister guild to Phantom Cloud. It seemed too coincidental. Still, he thought that since everyone there already knew each other, it might be easier to negotiate once the fight began. Then he jumped down from the cliff, apologizing but making it clear that this time he wouldn't give up the dungeon. Wang's companions acted like idiots. One said that the boss had his eye on that dungeon and they should leave, while another approached Qian with bad intentions, suggesting that if she wanted to stay, they could have some fun with her. He Lan cut the nonsense short by pointing her sword at him, warning that if they kept talking like that, she wouldn't mind shortening the man's neck. He Lan was level 61, 3rd transformation, a patrol swordswoman from the Phantom Rain Guild. Wang was startled to see someone of the 3rd transformation there, and hid behind one of his thugs, reminding everyone that they also had a high-level ally. Then Li Zhen, a brute of a man, stepped forward and told the women of his guild that this wasn't the time to act high and mighty, declaring that whoever had the bigger fist was the one who was right. Li Zhen was level 60, also in his 3rd transformation, a martial artist from the Green Mountain Pavilion, and warned that if a fight broke out, their companions wouldn't hesitate and the low-level newcomers behind them wouldn't stand a chance. Helan looked at her companions and realized they were all low-level rookies. If they fought, they'd be crushed, but if they retreated, the enemies might take advantage and cause problems later. Unsure of what to do, she considered striking first, and while the two glared at each other, the protagonist approached, thinking that if might really ruled here, then maybe it was time for him to step in. Li Zhen asked who he was, and as soon as Qian saw her friend, she grew worried, remembering the last time she had seen him was at the teleportation center, but then felt relieved to see he was all right, even though she didn't understand why he was now getting into trouble. Wang grew irritated seeing him again, but Yang replied that the line was his, asking why that filthy trash was everywhere, since he was nothing more than an annoying little girl. Wang asked if he really dared to challenge him, saying he should take a closer look at his opponents, because the man next to him was a 3rd transformation monster who could erase him from the map with a snap of his fingers. Li Zhen pointed at Yang and warned that if he had any sense, he would kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe then he'd let him keep his corpse in one piece. The protagonist simply ignored them both and walked over to his friend, saying it had been a long time. She laughed and agreed, which made Wang even angrier. Watching the scene, Helan asked if they really knew each other, and Qian, a bit embarrassed, smiled and confirmed that they were classmates. Helan replied that if they were classmates, that meant they had awakened together, and demanded to know how he dared show up there, challenging them. Stepping closer, she explained that this was a silver-ranked dungeon and asked if he was lost. Young calmly answered that his 2nd transformation quest required clearing a silver-ranked dungeon. Hearing that, Helan was surprised and asked how that could be possible. If he had awakened together with Qian, how could he already be level 40 in just a few days? That was simply impossible. Wang cut in, saying that Yang always acted high and mighty but was nothing more than a worthless warrior, and that if he didn't change his attitude, he'd end up dead. He added that if Yang was really that good, he should show his status for everyone to see his level. Since he didn't have the courage, he should stop pretending and accept that he was there only to kneel and worship the boss. Wang was level 10, an ice mage from the Green Mountain Pavilion Guild. Yang smirked at his opponent's low level and commented that if he were below level 2, he wouldn't even bother. But since he was already level 10, they could play a little. He gathered energy in his hand and activated the skill death penalty. For players below level 10, lose 2 levels. If below level 2, resurrection becomes impossible. With just 2 fingers, he unleashed a devastating strike, sending Wang flying. The protagonist told him to go back to the city and relax a bit in the hot springs. Wang's HP dropped to 0 instantly, and the system announced that the protagonist had defeated the level 10 Ice Mage, earning 100 experience points. Wang's companions were stunned, but Li Zhen charged forward in rage. Yang dodged easily, remarking that sneak attacks were disgustingly cheap. The mountain of muscles started cursing at him, asking if he thought he could walk away alive after killing the boy. Yang released his power and drew his sword, stating that whether or not he left alive depended solely on Li Zhen's ability. He looked at Hei Lan and said that if she wanted to join the fight, she was welcome to. It would save him the trouble of repeating the process. Hei Lan grew furious, saying he was an insolent brat and asking who had given him the courage to challenge 2/3 transformation professionals at once, calling him unbearably arrogant and insisting that even if he was Qian's friend, she wouldn't let this slide. Yang walked up to Li Zhen and said it would be better to set their fight aside for now. There was a certain brat who needed a proper lesson first. Li Zhen agreed, saying he'd deal with him afterward, and the two advanced together. Li Zhen attacked with full force, but the protagonist dodged every blow with astonishing agility. Disbelieving what he saw, Li Zhen poured in even more strength, shouting that he refused to believe it. Using Thunder Tiger Fist, he unleashed a massive strike that created an overwhelming shockwave, but Yang easily blocked it with his sword and with a single motion hurled him backward, smashing him into the mountain behind. Hei Lan seized the opening and tried to attack from behind but was startled when a shield suddenly activated. Yang remarked that yet another sneak attack had failed, and that the reputation of third transformation warriors was getting worse by the minute. He had used a golden single-use scroll, Crystal Barrier, which created a shield capable of absorbing up to 80,000 damage points. Hei Lan began trembling when she realized her attack had barely scratched half the barrier. She thought to herself that it must be an advanced defensive scroll, and his weapon didn't even look silver. It might be gold or even platinum. Remembering how he'd wiped out the Ice Mage in the blink of an eye, she grew even more wary, though she didn't want to believe that this boy could fight like that. Confused and frightened, she wondered who the hell Su Yang really was. Suddenly, a blast echoed from the top of the mountain. Li Zhen stood up in fury, shouting that this time Yang wouldn't escape and swearing not to rest until he was dead. Already impatient, Yang gathered flames and replied that he was in a hurry, so Li Zhen needed to disappear. With one precise attack, he ended the fight and the system announced, "You have defeated Li Zhen, martial artist level 60. Experience gained 3,125 points." Surrounded by his flames, Yang looked back and asked if anyone else still intended to fight. Terrified by the power she had just witnessed, Hei Lan sheathed her sword, realizing there was no way they could face someone like that. Yang did the same and said that was better. After all, they belonged to sister guilds, and he didn't want things to get ugly. Surprised, Hei Lan asked if he really was who she thought, but Yang interrupted, telling her to send his regards to the guildmaster since he first needed to challenge a dungeon. Stepping through the portal, the system identified him. Su Yang, level 40, Magic Warrior, Guild, Phantom Cloud. You have entered the dungeon, Cavern of Suffering. Transformation quest initiated. Complete it as quickly as possible. Recommended level, 2040. Party limit, 1-8 players. On the other side, inside the dungeon, he started walking, commenting that aside from the Black Dragon's lair, this was his first official dungeon. The air was crisp, and the place felt like a goblin den. Soon he noticed a lone enemy near the entrance. A vile goblin archer, level 35. The monster fired arrows, but Yang blocked them with ease, mocking that for a first dungeon monster, it was pretty pathetic. As he thought that, another goblin attacked from behind, but Yang sensed it coming, grabbed the creature by the throat, and hurled it into the archer. Then, with a single strike, he killed them both at once. Continuing forward, Yang grumbled that even trash like that tried to sneak attack him, concluding that this dungeon was tricky. If he weren't fast enough, he might have been caught off guard. He reflected that so far he'd beaten every enemy relying purely on his attributes, but knew that when facing someone truly powerful, victory would depend on skill. With that, he activated his demonic blade technique, saying this was a good opportunity to train. As he advanced deeper into the cave, he sensed two hidden monsters. When they lunged from behind, he transformed the demonic blade into a shield, creating a barrier that launched them upward. He then reshaped his energy into a hammer and crushed both with overwhelming force, causing an explosion that shook the ground. Several goblin archers appeared, trying to strike him, but he dodged with blinding speed, morphing his energy into a crossbow and firing 3 consecutive shots that eliminated every distant foe. Landing firmly, he pushed forward, saying that fighting defensively was annoying, and now it was his turn to attack. Gathering countless monsters around him as he ran through the cave, he commented that he was almost at the boss's room and planned to end everything at once. Spinning suddenly, he formed a 40-meter sword and unleashed a colossal slash, wiping out all the enemies in one blow. Watching the result, he remarked with satisfaction that the ability was incredibly versatile, effective both in close combat and at long range, and he felt increasingly eager to unlock the techniques of his second transformation. Suddenly, a new enemy appeared, the Frostfang Giant Tiger, the dungeon boss, level 40. Yang was confused to see that the leader of the Goblin Den was a tiger, finding the design almost comical, like a pet that had somehow become the master of the house. The tiger spoke in a menacing voice, calling the humans fools for invading its territory, asking if they were tired of living and if they thought they could keep up with its speed. Yang commented that the dialogue sounded pre-programmed, confirming that bosses below star rank had no real consciousness, which for him was perfect, since he could test a newly created technique. The tiger charged at the high speed, roaring that the human was finished. But in the blink of an eye, Yang activated the demonic blade transformation and struck a devastating blow, defeating it instantly. The system announced, Silver Dungeon Boss, Frostfang Giant Tiger, defeated. Experience gained 6,321 points. Another message followed. Silver ranked dungeon completed solo. Condition fulfilled. Boss defeated in under 3 minutes. Yang smiled, saying it was an instant kill and he hadn't even needed the time limit. He remarked that it was time to move on to the next dungeon. When he left, he noticed He Lan and Qian still hiding nearby and asked why they were so far away, assuring them he didn't intend to hurt anyone. He Lan replied that he didn't need to worry and could just be on his way. Yang agreed, bid farewell and left. Once he was gone, He Lan said in disbelief that he had cleared the entire dungeon in just 5 minutes, wondering what kind of monster that guy was. Qian, equally astonished, admitted that not long ago they had studied together, but now he seemed to belong to an entirely different world. Sometime later, in another dungeon, the protagonist once again defeated the boss. The system announced that he had eliminated the silver-ranked dungeon boss, the bloodthirsty orc, earning 6,187 experience points. Yang remarked that with that he had finished what he needed to do. The system then informed him, silver-ranked dungeon completed twice solo, condition met. Boss defeated in under 3 minutes. Second transformation quest completed. Mission cleared perfectly. New mission or account unlocked. Hidden transformation quest series activated. The system asked if he wanted to confirm his return, but Yang was surprised to see the new hidden quest. Determined, he accepted and the system detailed. Phase 1. Find the lost rusted key. Description. In the area marked on the map, a terrifying beast lies hidden, seemingly guarding something. Bonus rewards, plus 5% to all attributes and 1 legendary skill book for the special class Magic Warrior. Notes. 1. Hidden transformation quests can only be unlocked after a 5-star transformation and are linked to class development. 2. These quests open new phases with each transformation. 3. They can be abandoned without affecting normal missions. Time limit, 48 hours. The system asked again if he wanted to accept, and Yang smiled, saying that a 5% boost to all attributes was already tempting enough, not to mention the legendary book. Apparently, there was even a second phase ahead, which explained why a 5-star transformation mission was so valuable. Without hesitation, he confirmed. He then read the scroll and discovered that the quest would take him to the advanced wilderness area near Spirit Celestial City, where monsters average level 40 and the so-called terrifying beast shouldn't exceed 50. He thought that if it weren't for exploiting the system, no one could possibly complete such a mission. Gripping his dagger, he said it was time to unlock his star-ranked weapon. But to use a diamond or higher-rank weapon, having fully charged limitless gems wasn't enough. A master blacksmith was also required to embed them, and as far as he knew, there was no such craftsman in East Spirit City. Then he recalled that the Celestial Pavilion was located in Spirit Celestial City, a place not only selling dungeon strategies but also gathering information, and decided it was time to pay some old acquaintances a visit. He held his black gold VIP member card from the X Union and smiled, saying he had heard that the Celestial Pavilion was one of its members and wanted to see how they would react when they saw him. Shortly after, already in Spirit Celestial City, the protagonist was amazed by the bustling crowd, saying it was incredible to see so many people buying strategy guides. It really showed how good that group was. He admitted to feeling a bit nervous about meeting them, holding his fully charged Limitless Gem, which could be inserted into any equipment to remove level restrictions. He thought that with his current balance of 2.8 billion, after selling his items, he had officially entered the ranks of the new rich, and it made him feel slightly embarrassed. As soon as he entered the place, several people began shouting, asking if it wasn't finally their turn, complaining that they waited so long their flowers had wilted. The attendants urged everyone to remain calm and wait for their number to be called, while the protagonist was stunned by the sheer size of the crowd. Looking to the side, Yang spotted Zhou Tai and Liu Xi and thought he had found them faster than expected. The Shadow Assassin asked the leader if they could get reimbursed for the weapon since it was star-ranked. Zhou Tai sighed and said that after Chen's death, the sect had been kind enough not to go after them, asking what more he wanted. Liu Xi grew irritated, kicked one of the benches, and complained about having to farm everything again for months. The bench flew straight toward Yang's face, but he caught it with one hand and, annoyed, asked who the rude idiot was throwing things around. Liu Xi began releasing his shadows and asked if Yang had a problem. Yang said yes, and asked if he really thought being high-level gave him a free pass to do whatever he wanted. The Shadow Assassin grabbed him by the collar and yelled, asking how a mere level 40 newbie dared to challenge him, saying that he did whatever he wanted here and could send Yang straight to the respawn point if he felt like it. Yang started laughing. Liu Xi demanded to know what he was laughing at and if he looked like a fool, but Yang just thought calmly that if he really tried it, the next time he entered the Black Dragon's lair, he'd be completely annihilated. Zhou Tai stepped in, telling the Shadow Assassin to stop acting like an idiot and telling Yang it was just a joke. No need to take it seriously. Yang asked what kind of service that was, questioning if that was how the illustrious Celestial Pavilion treated its customers, calling it a disappointment. Zhou Tai didn't understand what he meant, apologized, and emphasized that they were a high-level strategy group. They didn't sell strategies to players at his level. Liu Xi, still hot-headed, asked the leader why they were wasting time with that trash, saying he'd just kick him out right away. Yang took out his card and told the Shadow Assassin to open his eyes and take a good look. But Liu Xi, being a bit of an idiot, slapped the card away and asked what was so special about that piece of junk. Yang was stunned, wondering if the bumpkin was really that dumb not to recognize the card. Suddenly, another person arrived. The card landed at his feet and he asked if it was what he thought it was. Zhou Tai wanted to know why the great butler was there. Liu Xi was also shocked and yelled, calling the man brother-in-law, saying he had been looking forward to his arrival. The man was Jia Yue, level 120, the great butler of the first city, Yongfeng City. The butler walked over to the Shadow Assassin and slapped him across the face, sending him to the floor. Liu Xi, confused, asked what that was about since they were brothers-in-law. Jia Yue ignored him, walked up to Yang, addressed him as an esteemed VIP, and introduced himself as Jia Yue, the great butler of Yongfeng City. He apologized for any trouble his subordinates may have caused. Yang replied that it was nothing, and everything was fine, though he thought to himself that this man was indeed powerful. The butler noted that Yang was quite young to already possess the black gold VIP card from the X-Union and asked if he had completed the 5-star transformation quest and earned the temple's VIP privileges. Yang confirmed he had. Jia Yue then looked at his subordinates and ordered them to treat the distinguished guest as he deserved, asking if they understood. Zhou Tai lowered his head and said yes. The butler began to leave, dragging Liu Xi along, saying they needed to talk about the next dungeon. The Shadow Assassin, angry, shouted at his brother-in-law to let him go, saying he could walk on his own, and still pointed a finger at Yang, warning him not to get cocky because his time would come. Hearing that, Yang began to wonder if the Celestial Pavilion was scheming something again. Zhou Tai approached Yang and asked how he could help. Yang said he wanted to know where to find the master blacksmith of Spirit Celestial City and whether they sold limitless gems there since he needed to buy a few. Zhou Tai replied that the information would be easy to get and that they did have limitless gems, though they were very expensive. Yang interrupted, saying if money was the issue, then there was no issue at all. He snapped his fingers and threw a mountain of gold coins in front of the expedition leader, who began stuttering and unsure what to say, finally blurted out that he understood and would personally fetch the items, asking Yang to wait a moment. Yang thought the change in attitude was impressively fast. He reflected that Yongfeng City was the capital of that region, and even the great butler had treated him with respect. Now he was even more curious about the class advancement temple. A short while later, Yang began to leave, commenting that the old wolf's forge had been located and that the master blacksmith was hiding in a place as discreet as that, realizing that trusting the celestial pavilion had been a good choice. Then, he overheard two people talking nearby. One of them said his companion had mentioned that the exploration team was getting ready to return to the Black Dragon's lair. The bald man asked if that was serious, reminding his friend that people had died in there, and yet they still wanted to go back. The hooded man replied that he'd only heard rumors, but now everyone was afraid and almost no one wanted to return. The bald one said that was understandable. He wouldn't go back in there even for 100 billion. Yang thought that was to be expected. The necromancer's death had shaken the exploration team's morale, and they probably wouldn't return anytime soon. Even so, he concluded that the sooner he managed to tame the black dragon, the better, because the more time passed, the more problems could arise. Sometime later, he arrived at Old Wolf's forge and opened the door, calling out that he was looking for Master Guiyang. But when he looked inside, he was surprised to see two women there. The blacksmith commented that another customer had arrived. Mu Rong from the Phantom Cloud Guild and her companion Anyu, level 92, also from the same guild, both looked at him. Yang smiled, realizing they were guildmates, and greeted them warmly, asking if they were doing well and if they were there to reforge their equipment. And Yu rushed over with an affectionate, curious look, asking if he was the new little brother who'd just joined, how old he was, whether he already had a girlfriend, and if by any chance he liked older sisters. Mu Rong put a hand on Anyu's face and pushed her back, telling the protagonist that this was a master-level forge and that, with his current level, he didn't need to come there. He could just use a regular blacksmith shop on this commercial street. And Yu told Mu Rong to stop being like that, and Yang sighed, saying it was the second time he'd heard that kind of comment and sometimes didn't even feel like explaining. So he simply showed them his dagger and the limitless gem, asking if his weapon was qualified to be there. Mu Rong was stunned, saying it couldn't be real, and asked if that was actually a star-ranked weapon. And Yu was also shocked upon seeing the fully charged limitless gem, knowing that each one was worth hundreds of millions. As soon as he revealed the equipment, the blacksmith stood up, visibly impressed, saying he hadn't seen such an extraordinary weapon in ages. Without hesitation, Yang handed the dagger to him, saying he was entrusting the weapon to his hands. When Guiyang held it, he felt a powerful energy surge through his body and shouted for Yang to leave everything to him. He would pour all his life's experience into this enhancement and wouldn't disappoint him. Then, the blacksmith began his work. With each hammer strike on the dagger, waves of energy pulsed outward, causing small explosions. Mu Rong watched in awe, asking if this was really the special effect of enhancing a star-ranked weapon. It was the first time she had ever seen such a thing. And Yu was also mesmerized, saying the lights were amazing. Mu Rong glanced at Yang and noticed he was calmly sitting on the couch, expressionless, and thought he must be used to scenes like this. And Yu caught her looking and started laughing, teasingly asking what was going on and why she couldn't stop staring at him. Was she perhaps interested? Mu Rong blushed and yelled at her to stop saying nonsense, insisting she had just spaced out. And Yu kept teasing her, saying it was rare to see her acting like that, while Mu Rong, face red, told her to shut up immediately. The protagonist watched the whole scene and wondered if he had joined the wrong guild. A few hours later, the blacksmith lifted the dagger and announced that it was finished. Yang was impressed, saying this was the work of a true master. He'd achieved a perfect result on the first try, unlike last time when Yang had lost a huge amount of materials. The aura emanating from the weapon was overwhelmingly dense. Yang reached out to take it and asked the master blacksmith how much he owed for the service. Guiyang said that the weapon had been a lot of work and that normally he'd charge 1 billion, but since he was in a good mood, he'd make an exception and do it for free. And Yu gasped, saying that a Grandmaster level enhancement for free was unbelievably lucky. However, Yang said he would never take advantage of a veteran. Money, he said, was easy to come by, but finding a blacksmith like Master Guiyang was nearly impossible, something that didn't happen every day. Therefore, he insisted the blacksmith accept the 1 billion payment, saying he planned to come back many more times. Guiyang was moved and praised Yang's character, gladly accepting the payment and saying he looked forward to seeing him again soon. Watching the scene, Anyu was completely smitten, remarking that he'd refused a free service, paid 1 billion, and still left smiling. She wondered if that was the calm of a true magnate and what she should do now since it seemed she was starting to fall for him. Mu Rong was also impressed by his attitude and wondered if the protagonist might actually be some young master from an S-ranked guild. Wasting no time, Yang set out toward the outskirts of Spirit Celestial City, to the Wild Spirit Mountain, an area recommended for level 40 and above. Perched high atop a tree, Yang remarked that this looked like the right place for the mission, and that the map was clearly designed for someone who had already completed the second transformation. He examined his new weapon, thinking about the Dark Thirst ability, which required 300 points in speed and spirit, concluding he just needed to use a few attribute potions and allocate the remaining points. His panel displayed Su Yang, level 40, Magic Warrior, Strength 980, Base 241 plus Equipment 739, Speed 1129, Base 311 plus Equipment 818, Spirit 488, Base 314 plus Equipment 174. He thought that with his current power he could already take on a fourth transformation opponent. Then he drank a meditation elixir X1, which permanently increased spirit by 50 points and could be used up to 5 times. An agility elixir X2, which permanently increased speed by 50 points, also with a limit of 5 uses. And a heavenly speed elixir, which permanently boosted speed by 100 points and could be used twice. After finishing, he leapt into the forest saying it was time to move. During the fall, a spectral bat level 42 and a resentful soldier level 44 appeared to attack him. He activated Shadow Form, consuming mana to become invisible for a short period and boosting his speed by 60%. In an instant, he struck both with a double slash, killing them instantly. He thought that this was the most basic warrior attack, yet with a star-ranked weapon, the damage became absurd. Noticing that he was completely surrounded by monsters, he muttered that he had no intention of clearing the map the proper way, so he would go with the old method and blow through everything at once. Using several more potions and scrolls, he triggered a power burst, unleashing a massive explosion through the jungle. The blast instantly wiped out every monster nearby. After walking a bit further, he saw a cave ahead and said it had to be the cavern of the terrifying beast. Judging from the mission's design, he bet its level was not below 50 and wondered how many hits the boss could withstand. Advancing through the cave, he found it strange not to encounter any monsters along the way, but soon he spotted a bright light ahead and realized he had reached the destination. Crossing the light, he was stunned to find the creature's lair, a mutant beast that devoured an unknown piece of flesh, level 55, undead. All stats, skills, and traits were completely hidden. Young wondered what was going on since the system only showed its level and name. He concluded he would need to buy a high-level skill book to reveal more details but pressed on, knowing better than to underestimate a boss with concealed data. He activated Shadow Form and unleashed a powerful strike, dealing 52,281 damage. The system reminded him that the mark consumed mana to tag a target, and if the attack landed undetected, damage increased by 300%. The beast roared in rage, and Yang said that was expected since there was no way it would go down in a single blow. The monster counterattacked, but Yang easily dodged and retaliated, determined not to let it recover. With another critical strike, he finished the battle. The system announced, "You have defeated the mutant beast that devoured an unknown piece of flesh." Experience gained 4,321. Items obtained rusted key and unknown rotten flesh. The descriptions read, rusted key worn by time used to open an unknown door. Unknown rotten flesh once held great power but has long lost its strength, a symbol of decay and of mysterious origin. Perplexed, Young commented that the key was probably part of the quest, but the flesh was intriguing because if it could mutate a beast even after losing its power, the original owner must have been incredibly strong. He stored the items and decided to set the mystery aside for now, since it was time to complete his class transformation quest. Suddenly, multiple notifications appeared. Inspection complete. Mission approved. 5-star class transformation finalized. Base attributes increased by 25%. Next, he received a new exclusive passive ability, Dual Spirit Enhancement, which increased spirit by 10% of strength and strength by 10% of spirit non-stackable. The system then detected a hidden class transformation mission, confirmed its completion, and awarded additional rewards. All attributes plus 5% special class Magic Warrior unlocked, 1 legendary skill book received, and level cap removed. After calculating the accumulated experience, his level rose from 40 to 58, granting him 360 attribute points. He ordered the system to distribute the points equally between strength and spirit, and after a few seconds the system confirmed the update. His strength rose from 241 to 301, then 359, reaching a total of 539. His speed increased from 311 to 388, totaling 407. His spirit went from 314 to 392, then to 411, reaching 591. Young thought that with those attributes he was already far above third transformation professionals, and with his current equipment, he could even face spiritual hunters and defeat a fourth transformation opponent while still in the second transformation. Just imagining that made him excited. With the mixed damage between strength and spirit combined with the spectral mark, he bet that not even a platinum-ranked dungeon boss could survive a single strike from him, since that ability was truly overwhelming. The system notified him again. Magic Warrior class, legendary skill, Dual Destruction Blade. Number 1. Fuses the magic blade with the equipped weapon, consuming half the mana to deliver a devastating attack. Number 2. Damage equals 200% of strength plus 200% of spirit. The priestess congratulated him for completing the 5-star second transformation and informed him that his VIP benefits had been officially updated. His previous monthly payment of 10 million in national currency was now 50 million, and the discount rate for the Black Gold Identity certification from the X-Union had increased from 20 to 30%. Yang confirmed he understood and thought that with his current level these benefits already seemed normal. He also mentioned that there had been a small mistake earlier. When he said 80% discount, the correct value was 20. Ling asked what his plans were now, and Yang replied that he was a bit tired and planned to rest for 2 days, since work and rest should go together. She agreed, saying rest was important, but he only smiled, thinking that resting did not mean standing still. In truth, he needed to go to the Celestial Pavilion to buy some things and prepare for the dragon hunt. Meanwhile, a meeting was taking place at the Celestial Pavilion Guild. Jia Yue told Zhou Tai that he would be responsible for the next dungeon expedition, and asked if 30 members in the group would be enough to complete it. Zhou Tai replied that yes, 30 people should be sufficient, but reminded him there was a special mechanic that prevented resurrection. Jia Yue reassured him, saying the headquarters had already prepared a countermeasure. Each member would receive a jade ring of life to ensure survival. Zhou Tai was surprised and thanked him for such a valuable item. The butler said he would leave everything in their care and that if he were not so busy, he would have loved to personally witness the dragon hunt to stretch his muscles a bit. At that moment, the door swung open abruptly, and a firm voice ordered them to wait, saying it was not their turn to deal with the black dragon. The three were shocked, and the butler, alarmed, asked what the young lady was doing there. He then announced loudly that the young lady was present and that everyone should greet her immediately. It was Luo Linger, a beast tamer at level 130, daughter of the master of the Celestial Pavilion. Jia Yue kneeled before her, saying he had not known about her visit and begging forgiveness for not welcoming her properly. Linger replied that there was no need for formalities, since she had not informed anyone of her arrival but warned that her presence must be kept secret. She tried to sit down but noticed there was no chair. A subordinate quickly brought one upon noticing the situation. Once seated, Linger ordered that from that moment on, no one was to enter the Black Dragon's lair without her permission, because she herself intended to tame it. The butler, astonished, asked if that was a direct order from the pavilion master. Linger then released part of her power and, in a threatening tone, asked if he really dared to question her and what would be wrong even if the order did not come from her father, leaving the entire hall in complete silence. Jia Yue felt cornered and asked how he could refuse such a command, assuring her he would issue the order immediately. Linger stood up satisfied, saying that was good, and instructed the butler to prepare all available information about the Great Black Dragon and to arrange a room for her since she needed to rest. Jia Yue took a deep breath and commented that he had not expected the sudden appearance of the young lady, admitting that it had been a major miscalculation. Still astonished, Liu Xi asked if she was really the pavilion master's daughter, the young prodigy from the Global Beast Tamer Association, and the butler confirmed it. He explained that the Global Beast Tamer Association was a super organization on the same level as the X-Union, specializing in hunting and capturing rare and exotic beasts from all over the world, whether dungeon bosses or elite wild creatures. He also emphasized that the young lady was incredibly gifted, having joined the association at a very young age, and that there were very few people in all of Longxia who could compare to her. This time, her secret arrival clearly meant she intended to tame the Black Dragon before any other tamer. And if she succeeded, she would undoubtedly become the most powerful beast tamer on the continent, raising the Celestial Pavilion's prestige to an unimaginable level. Jia Yue stressed that because of this, no one was allowed to make any mistakes inside the dungeon while accompanying the young lady. Everyone was to follow her orders strictly, especially when the Black Dragon's health dropped low, since they had to let her tame the creature without interference. No one was to try stealing the achievement. He asked if everyone understood. Zhou Tai confirmed and volunteered to retrieve the basic dragon guide for the young lady immediately. The Shadow Assassin agreed, saying they would never dare to disobey the Pavilion Master's daughter. But as soon as Jia Yue accessed the system to locate the basic dragon guide, he was shocked to see that it had already been purchased yesterday by a player named Su Yang. Liu CI groaned, complaining about why it always had to be that guy and wondering if he was doing it on purpose. The butler considered that it might just be a coincidence since the protagonist could not have known about the young lady's visit. But what truly intrigued him was why someone of Su Yang's level would be interested in dragons. Jia Yue asked what they should do in this situation, and one of the members suggested forcing the protagonist to return the book. He rejected the idea immediately, saying that no matter how concerning the matter seemed, they must never offend a temple VIP without reason. He assured them there must be other versions of the dragon material and said he would personally handle finding an alternative. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.